Welcome back to the channel. This is Trendy Storm and you are watching second part of what if Naruto became Iron Man during chunin exam finals. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe to this channel. Now wasting no more time, let's start the story.
As he saluted, Naruto declared, "Naruto Uzumaki read Y to kick names and take ass, sir." He said, "Good, your mission is item recovery from hostile territory. You see that house inside it is your objective. In the master bedroom in the top drawers you will find the items that you are to retrieve. Your mission is to recover the items without being detected. Do so and you're on your own. Do you accept?" Hiccup. Before he giggled and said, "I fall down," Naruto swayed slightly and said, "Of course I am." Naruto Uzumaki is always ready. He then fell backwards on his ass. He was helped back up by Izumo, who said, "Good luck, chunin, and make us proud." He and Katetsu both saluted him before collapsing backwards, smiling. Before he fell over the side of the building he was on and started to cross the street, knocking over a trash can. Naruto huffed and looked at them. He tried the door multiple times without success, swaying and saying, "Now what?" as he glanced around and noticed a window open on the second floor. He began stacking trash cans and attempted to climb them, but he fell while laughing, forgetting that he could use chakra to get to the window on the second floor. As Kurenai and Anko held back their laughter across the roof from Katetsu and Izumo, who were unconscious, Anko muttered, "You think Yugo is going to give him what he deserves?" "Oh, I think she might go easy on him after all. He's making more noise than an army right now, but he is persistent," Kurenai remarked as she calmed down. Anko inquired, "What should we do about the boys here?" Kurenai glanced at them and replied, "I have the perfect solution. Kakashi is still on gate duty for a couple of hours. What do you say we drop both of them off in his apartment and destroy Kakashi collection where you will blame them?" As Kurenai picked up Izumo and Anko picked up Katetsu, she grinned and said, "Yeah, then we can come help Yu-chan to clean up the mess with Wonder Boy." After 15 minutes or so, Naruto eventually collapsed through the open window into the room, only to discover that he had fallen into a cold water bathtub. After a little sobriety, Naruto tried to slip through the house and found the master bedroom. He pulled out the top drawer of the dresser, blinked, and asked himself, "What kind of item are these?" as he produced a 3-foot wooden stick. A female voice said, well, what do we have here?" "An armed intruder. I think I should teach you a lesson about breaking into a woman's home," as he covered his eyes and the room suddenly filled with light before he could realize anything. After blinking a few times and saying, You say something?" Naruto collapsed to the ground, laughing uncontrollably. She growled and strode over to Naruto, saying, "Come on, bastard, let's get you out of here." Yugo blinked and thought, "Oh god, he did not just pull a Kakashi, did he? I don't want my bedroom to smell like blood." As he attempted to pull away, Naruto, who was still gripping the wooden stick, remarked, "You just like that crazy bitch from the exams wanting my blood in your bedroom." As she tossed him into the laundry chute, Yugo's eye twitched, and she heard Naruto utter, "OW," as he struck the basement floor. She arrived to find 4 Naruto fighting among themselves, one yelling, "You bastard," another, "You want some bitch," a fourth, panting, leaning on the stick he was holding, yelled, "Hold still so I can beat you." "First off, assholes, you don't use a Bakken like that," Yugo said with a sly smile as she approached the wall by the stairs and picked up a stick similar to the one Naruto was using. As they attempted to attack her, each Naruto turned to face her and yelled, "I am going to kick your ass." As Yugo destroyed the 3-cage bunshin, she was actually laughing. "Now as for you, Mr. Intruder," she said, glancing at the final one as she started to slowly attack him and he attempted to defend himself, she said, "I'm going to make you wish you were never born." She narrowed her eyes and started attacking Naruto's body with some real skills. After Yugo finally struck him she blinked and thought, "What the hell, how can he take a hit like that and not be affected?" By this point, Naruto was beginning to recover because Eva had released a tiny quantity of Kyuubi chakra into his body to battle the sake, and he had begun to attempt self-defense. As she launched an attrition war against him, Yugo eventually grinned and remarked, "Not bad, kid, let's see how long you can last." After 2 hours, Yugo and Naruto were both panting, but he was mostly sober by this point. "So how long are we going to keep this up?" he asked. Yugo replied, "You seem to recover from being drunk quickly, or was that all an act?" "Getting the shit beat out of me by a pretty lady is not on my to-do list," Naruto said as he leapt back, blocking. "But Flati won't save you," Yugo said. "When you broke into my house, did you know what you were doing?" After taking a quick look around, Naruto remarked, "To be honest, I have no idea where I am or who you are, lady. The last thing I recall is that, in an attempt to celebrate my creation of chunin, Katetsu and Izumo held a drinking competition to see who could consume the most alcohol in 20 minutes. However, I am currently suffering from a terrible headache, so who are you anyway? As she attempted to strike him in the arm, Yugo remarked, I am Yugo Uzuki and this is my home. Naruto, who was gradually improving, deflected the blow and apologized, saying, well, if it's worth anything I wanted to pass this test to demonstrate that I had the qualifications needed to be a chunin, as I had never consumed alcohol before. He scowled and said, not some worthless kid who's not worth your time. As she attempted to strike him in the head and he rolled away, Yugo questioned, who told you that shit? As he began to attack and Yugo easily defended, Naruto remarked, Kakashi Teme the bastard, I asked him to train me and he said I wasn't worth his time, too busy being Sasuke bitch I guess. Yugo recalled her one previous Anbu captain and remarked, I can't see Kakashi senpai doing that. Then you don't know the real Kakashi the bastard, Naruto remarked. He put his fingers up my ass on the first day we worked together, ignoring the fact that she was questioning whether it was worth his time to hit her in the side. He wasn't being a Sasuke bitch. When Yugo realized what he was talking about, she ducked under the blow and uttered, really, 1,000 years of death huh? Snorting, Naruto remarked, more like the secret handshake of the pedophile weekly. That one actually made Yugo laugh as he dodged a blow to the head. Naruto remarked, you have a nice laugh. You have a hard body to take those hits, Yugo remarked. As Yugo heard the sound of metal hitting metal, Naruto slammed his fist against his chest and uttered, not really armor. Yugo replied, but I can't see it though I suspected as much. She tried to block Naruto's blow to her head, but he kicked her hand and slapped her back in a way. She charged and locked arms with him above his head, and he looked into her eyes, saying, I see you hurting, I guess that is all any of us feel anymore huh? As he stopped trying to overpower her, she tripped his feet out from under him, held the bakken at his neck, narrowed her eyes, and asked, in a dangerous tone, what did you say? As he stood up, Naruto swatted the stick away and uttered, your eyes they display your pain. He pulled his knees up to his chest and said, I've seen that look enough to know it personally. Yugo was so angry that she yelled, get out. Naruto swayed and fainted, saying, I would but I don't think I can. Yugo sat down against a support beam and waited, huffing and glaring at him as she picked up her discarded weapon and Naruto's before putting them away. A few hours later, Yugo opened her eyes after hearing someone moaning because of her Anbu training. She was able to sleep soundly, and when she saw Naruto staring at his hand, he exclaimed, what the hell happened Eva and where am I? Yugo blinked as she turned to face him, and he responded, you're shitting me right? Why the hell didn't you stop me when I was falling into those trash cans? I did huh? What do you mean? I see, so that was supposed to have been a panty raid, but I never heard of it. I see, got my ass kicked by a pretty woman, damn she good. Well, that was interesting, wonder what her story is. Hey, wait a minute, go back and watch that video again. I recognize the guy in the photo, he was the proctor for the preliminary round. Cool dude, wonder where he is. What I guess I didn't notice his name when I was looking at dad's on the stone. Wonder how he died. Oh damn, I guess that's why she had that hurt expression on her face. The way that picture appears, she must have been close to him. I hope she doesn't go all shit and depressed like Tsunade and Shizune did. It's terrible to see someone disrespect the memory of someone they lost by giving up or going all Avenger like Sasuke does maybe, but she'll probably kick my ass again. Hey, I resent that. He rubbed his hand on his head and started to sit up. I've never been a coward. Well, if everything else fails, I just got one more person to hate me, nothing new there. Naruto's head a few moments before speaking, Naruto. Speaking, Eva. A video is playing on the Naruto HUD screen. What the hell happened, Eva, and where am I? Said Naruto. You made a fool of yourself last night after getting wasted. You're right to shit me. His HUD display showed scenes of him singing at the bar and then tripping over the trash cans while attempting to enter. When I was falling into those trash cans, why in the world didn't you stop me? Because you said that unless you were going to die, I shouldn't stop you. Yes, I did. In any case, you failed your actual mission. What do you mean? When you steal a woman's underwear from her clothing without being caught, it's called a panty raid. I see. I had never heard of a panty raid, which is what it was supposed to have been. There were scenes of him meeting Yugo before the fighting broke out. It appears that a pretty woman kicked my ass. There were scenes where she became more serious. Goddamn, she's good. Well, scenes in which he gazed into her eyes while they were clasped together. That was fascinating, and I'm curious to know her story. She recently lost a loved one. The image on the dresser showed scenes of Yugo in Hiati arms. Hey, pause for a second, then watch that video once more. Repetition of the scene. The man in the photo is someone I know. He served as the preliminary proctor. You must have liked him, Really, I wonder where this cool guy is. He passed away, what? The memorial stone bore his name. When I was looking at Dad's on the stone, I must have missed his name. I wonder how he passed away. Sometime during the month-long break, as it was prior to the exams. Oh no, I suppose that's why she had that hurt expression on her face at the time. Based on the appearance of that photo, she must have been near him. Given that she was wearing an engagement ring in the picture, it looks like they were engaged. I hope she doesn't go as depressed and shit as Tsunade and Shizune did. It's terrible to see someone disrespect the memory of someone they lost by giving up or becoming as vengeful as Sasuke. Like you did with Tsunade and Shizune, you could try to assist her. Perhaps, but she'll probably kick my ass again. Fearful of being kicked in the ass. Hey, that irritates me. My cowardice has never existed. Show it. Nothing is known there, but if everything else fails, I just have one more person to despise. Returned to standard view. Looking around as he sat up, Naruto noticed Yugo staring at him and said, hi. As Yugo questioned, have conversations in your head often? Naruto replied, more than you would know about last night. I wanted to say sorry for everything. I didn't mean to bring up painful memories. I don't know what you're talking about, Yugo remarked. Look, what is your name again? Said Naruto. Yugo Uzuki. Yugo, said Naruto replied. Look, Yu-chan. I realize now that you and Hiati were engaged. I honestly didn't know until just a moment ago that he had passed away. I actually thought he was cool the way he tricked everyone into underestimating him with that cough, but I saw when he slipped the powder on his lip to make it where he would cough. Yugo responded, and how can you claim to know something now you didn't know before, since you didn't talk to anyone or go anywhere to learn the truth? Would you believe I have a woman who is in my head and helps me to be a better man? Said Naruto, scowling. Not likely, but it doesn't matter. Can you please leave? Yugo snorted. No, said Naruto. She let out a little key, and Yugo narrowed her eyes and said, and why the hell not? Because, Naruto said as he stood up and moved to the wall where the Bakken were. He threw one of the Bakken toward Yugo and said, you and I got off on the wrong foot last night because I got drunk and listened to those two idiots Suzumo and Katetsu remind me to kick both their asses later. Eva. Yugo noticed it and replied, do you really expect to beat me? I am now the best swords master in Konoha. With Hiati death you can't even hold a weapon right. As Yugo watched the armor appear on Naruto and then vanish, she questioned, what was that? Naruto responded, beat you no, earn your respect. Yes Eva, armor and stealth shield deactivate. Naruto replied, that's my redemption, I guess you could say. That's how you beat the Hyuga, isn't it? Yugo said, squinting. With a frown, Naruto remarked, yeah, but power don't come without a price. After noticing the blue glow through Naruto's shirt, Yugo started to pace around him and asked, and what price did you pay for this power? As he started to slowly circle in a circle to face Yugo, Naruto uttered the words, I am a memory of pain for those who died because of Kyuubi and those who died in the name of making a difference. I have come to accept those facts and I will live every day of my life trying to make redemption to all those who have been hurt by the actions of what I bear. According to Yugo, and that thing that's glowing in your chest. Yugo counterattacked after Naruto charged and grabbed a slice, and Naruto defended himself by saying, my life. Although Naruto was in worse shape due to the sake burning out of his system, both of them were sweating profusely during the next 3 hours as they attacked and defended against one another. Yugo swiftly slapped his wrist after Naruto made a crucial error. She then twisted by his outstretched arm, driving an elbow into his stomach, and then she swept his legs out from under him, causing him to fall. She then put the Bakken at his neck and uttered the words, do you yield? Yugo started to lose her balance after Naruto cut her feet, and the Bakken struck the ground next to Naruto's neck. He leaned up, caught her in the bridal style, and said, draw. Yugo was chuckling as she said, draw. You were right about one thing, Naruto. You did earn my respect, if only for the fact you proved you could go on even when you should have lost. You told me your name, but I haven't properly introduced myself. Naruto Uzumaki, and this is Eva. Naruto sat her down on her feet and held out his hand, causing Yugito to widen his eyes. Before she disappeared, Eva said, it's a pleasure to meet you, Ms. Uzuki. According to Yugo, you were telling the truth. Yeah, Naruto said, turning his head away. Why did you show her to me in your armor? Inquired Yugo. As he lifted his shirt and displayed the power cell, Naruto remarked, a sign of trust. My life is in your hands. You have info now that would cost me my life if it was learned. Destroy this and you destroy me. Yugo widened her eyes as she said, that still does not explain why you showed me. If that thing is truly a weakness that you claim it is, then why tell me I could use it and kill you? Naruto replied, but you won't. I may not know you very well, but I can tell one thing for sure. You're the same as me, you're willing to do anything to protect that which is precious to you, and you're an honorable person who could have killed me in my sleep or for breaking in or any number of other times when we spared but you didn't. I respect that, and I know Hiadi was precious to you, but do not let his memory cause you to live a life of regret. After the village was attacked, I was sent to find Tsunade Senju to come to Konoha and be the Godem. When we found her, I saw firsthand what living in the past and letting the memories of those you lost can do to you. It took me nearly dying from blood loss, her assistant Shizune nearly being killed by Orochimaru men, Jiraiya fighting Orochimaru with summons for her to finally remember she has things left to live for and fight to protect. She just couldn't see them because of her always looking back. Don't make the same mistake she did. Yugo replied, you're too naive to trust someone like you just did. Naruto looked sad and said, that may be why I consider someone who was my enemy one of my first true friends, that I have vowed to live my life in honor of his memory. After Yugo gave him a slap across the head, Naruto exclaimed, ow, what was that for? Yugo was saying, kid, you are hopeless one moment you're all wise, the next you're an idiot, and after that you're hopelessly wise. Naruto replied, you forgot I am ravishingly handsome and have a magnetic personality. When Yugo started laughing, Naruto grinned and remarked, well, I probably should go now. It is already 8 a.m. Damn, I can't believe it has been that long, Yugo said, glancing at the clock. Naruto sighed and said, I bet those two idiots are still on the roof across the way waiting for me to return with your panties. With a gleam in his eyes, Yugo exclaimed, really, so you came to steal my panties, huh? Naruto replied, I guess I was just told to take whatever was in the top drawer of your dresser from Eva Video. How would you like to pull a prank on them? Yugo inquired. Yu-chan, I think I am going to like spending time with you, Naruto remarked with a sly smile. As Yugo questioned, to what extent, Naruto replied, well, consider it an investment. You get the company of my charming self that you get to use as a sparing dummy, and I get to learn to try a thing or two about swordsmanship. With a grin. With a blink, Yugo inquired, how long have you been planning that? Naruto grinned and remarked, since you kicked my ass. Yugo questioned, sneaky little kid. Hey, said Naruto, I am not a kid. Yugo replied, well, you're not a man yet either anyways about that prank. After about 20 minutes, the door to Yugo's house opened, and Naruto emerged without his shirt on. His armor was activated, so his chest and washboard stomach still looked normal, and he was holding his shirt. That was an amazing Naru-kun. How is it you could keep me going all night long? Yugo said loudly in a seductive voice as she entered the doorframe wearing a silk bathrobe that stopped at her knee. Naruto's voice sounded husky as he said, when you have someone who is as wild as you, Yugo, it's easy to find ways to reach the desired effect. There are 2 chakra signatures still on the roof, Yugo muttered as she leaned forward, placing her arms over Naruto's shoulder and giving the impression that she was kissing him. With a slight head movement, Naruto wrapped his arms around her back and muttered, so should we continue the little act? Slowly, Yugo withdrew and remarked, come back sometime so we can do it again. Naruto replied, how about later today if we don't have missions? Give me a day or two to recover first. I'm going to be walking with a limp the rest of the day, Yugo said, shifting and massaging her leg. According to Naruto, I aim to please, Yugo replied, and you did believe me. You did. I haven't had that much fun in a while and you helped me work out some frustration. With a forward lean, Naruto said, anything for you, Yu-chan? See you later, loverboy. Yugo grinned as she leaned forward and took Naruto's head, kissing him to his surprise before heading back inside and shutting the door. Naruto turned and began to move toward his apartment with a broad, shit-eating smile. He passed out after crawling up in bed when he arrived. 2 women gaped back across from Yugo's house. You don't think she actually, Kurenai said. Anko replied, I don't know Nia, she might have from what she was saying. But, said Kurenai looking at Naruto's retreating figure. Anko licked her lips and remarked, he kept her going all night long, not bad. Then she said, well, if she did she can clean up the mess herself. I wasted a night with Asuma for this. Anko replied, don't feel too bad Nia, you always got your boy toy on your team whenever you want him. Kurenai gave Anko a fierce look and departed in a flurry of leaves, while Anko departed shortly after, laughing uncontrollably. 3 males nearby were also wide-eyed. One was lowering his head, while the other 2 were holding their heads. Katetsu remarked, see Kakashi, I told you that he was there. Azuma replied, damn it, he was only supposed to steal her panties, not get in them. Life's so unfair. After taking out his book, Kakashi said, I can't believe Yugo would do that, though I guess she misses Hiadi more than anyone realized. Oh well, nothing more to see here. He then departed in a flurry of leaves. Gazing at Kotetsu, Azumo remarked, I wonder how long it will take for word to spread about this. With a smirk that matched the others, Kotetsu said, only as fast as we tell people. They both giggled as they leapt away. Naruto was awakened the following morning by the knock on his door. He rubbed his face and moaned, then stood up and walked to the door. Upon arriving, he noticed Shino standing at the door. He blinked and inquired, what's up, Shino? With a neutral tone, Shino said, may I come in a moment? Yeah, come on in, Naruto said. Blinking, I apologize for the mess. He opened the door wider and moved aside, saying, I hadn't really had a chance to do much since I returned. I do not see a need to worry about what I think of your place, Naruto. After all, it is your home, not mine, Shino said, raising an eyebrow as he entered. Looking at the wall clock, Naruto remarked, I guess I didn't think of that. So what brings you here at Whoa? It's already 11 a.m. I must have been more tired than I thought from returning yesterday. Shino replied, I believe you have slept longer than you believe because you returned 2 days ago. Naruto rubbed the back of his head and blinked, saying, no joke, damn, I didn't meant to sleep through yesterday. I am definitely not going to drink again after this time. Was it Kotetsu and Azumo? Inquired Shino, blinking. Naruto remarked, yeah, I guess they set you up as well, huh, Shino? Shino replied, indeed. Now the reason I came here is for 2 reasons. The first is to inform you that I am aware of your unique status as a symbiotic life form like myself. With a half-inquisitive tone, Naruto rubbed his head and said, what do you mean? Shino stated, I am aware of the Kyuubi that was sealed in you, and I also realize that you and it are 2 separate beings, just as I and my hive are 2 separate beings, yet we live in the same body. Are you sure you are okay with that information, and how did you figure it out? Asked Naruto, who momentarily stopped in his tracks and turned to face Shino. Shino stated, I along with Shikamaru both deduced the truth and confronted the Sandaime with our theory when he gave us both the rank of chunin. We also deduced that you are the son of the Yondaime Hokage. As he reached for an apple, Naruto scowled and questioned, is the reason you accept me because of who my father was? Shino replied, no, as I stated earlier, I see you as someone who is unique like my family. I would like the chance to get to know you as a friend, though, since we have such a common ground. There's a worm in the apple. I know it's not the same as you hive, but I figured you could place it where it belongs better than I could. Naruto threw the apple over his shoulder, and Shino caught it. After glancing at the apple, Shino remarked, thank you, Naruto, and I will take care of it on our way to our duty. Turning, Naruto questioned, what duty? Shino replied, that is the other reason I am here at this moment. You and I have guard duty at the main gate in an hour. I have done it 3 times while you were away, so I am qualified to teach you what is needed to perform this duty. After nodding, Naruto remarked, then I need to get ready. Is there anything else? No, Shino replied, that is all. As Naruto entered his room and started gathering his belongings, he paused briefly and said, Shino, thank you. Before Shino scurried off in a horde of insects, a tiny smile flashed across the corner of his mouth. Shino knows about the fox and accepts me. That is something I could not have seen coming, and I appreciate it. Shikamaru also knows, and he did not act any different toward me. Perhaps he will accept me as well. I am finally being seen as me and not the fox. He wiped a tear from his eye and sat down on his bed in Naruto's room. A tiny smile came to his face as he got up, quickly showered, and changed before leaving his apartment and making his way to the main gate. He arrived to find Shino standing there with 2 chunins he didn't recognize. After both chunin gave Shino a nod and leapt away, Naruto approached and inquired, so what do we do? All we have to do is observe those who are coming and going, write down who they are, what time they left or arrived, and look for anything that could be considered suspicious. Shino turned to Naruto and said, if we find something that we suspect, we are to inform the Anbu who are nearby by using this hand sign. Naruto nodded. Shino continued, as you can see, that hand sign is very unique and would not be used for anything else. When you use that hand sign using chakra, it emits a small pulse that any ninja in a 4-block radius would detect. Other than those duties, we are to merely stand here or sit in the booth to your right. Seems simple enough. How long is our shift? Asked Naruto. Shino sighed and replied, that is why this duty is so frowned upon. All shifts are 12 hours, so we will be here until midnight. Well, if you don't mind, later, I can send a Kage Bunshin to get us some ramen. Naruto sighed. Shino replied, that is fine. I will have a vegetarian ramen as not to upset my hives. Naruto replied, alright, I will send it about 6 to get them so we can enjoy a hot meal. Shino nodded and stood at the gate. Naruto sighed and leaned against the wall, looking at his hand as chakra started to gather there. Shino turned to face him as a tiny disc of chakra materialized, then vanished from view after a few seconds. What was that, if I may ask? He asked. Naruto raised his eyebrows and replied, oh, that. It's a jutsu I invented off of one my father first created. I call it the Rasen Shuriken. It still is not complete yet though, so I figured I can work on it a little bit since it's mostly just chakra control at this stage. It seems like a very powerful jutsu. What does it do? Shino asked, nodding. It dissipated after about 60 yards, and Naruto stated, that is what it does. I hope to get it where it will be the size of a demon windmill shuriken when I am done though. Naruto had formed another one in his hand, drawn it back, and thrown it at a tree across the road outside the gate. It went straight through the tree. That is most impressive. You said you created it off of one of your father's jutsu. Which one? Shino said, glancing at the hole in the tree. Naruto raised his hand once more, and this time the chakra created a Rasengan. He then approached the tree he had previously cut, drew it back, and yelled, Rasengan. He then slammed his hand into the tree, blowing it to pieces and sending it tumbling back into the forest. The destructive force of that jutsu caused Shino's glasses to fall off his face, and Naruto returned and remarked, that was my father's jutsu. Pretty impressive, huh? Returning his glasses, Shino remarked, that is very impressive, Naruto. I can honestly say that nothing in my skills would come even close to either of those jutsu. Naruto sighed as he said, they're not that complicated, but it takes a lot of chakra control and power. I have always had a lot of chakra thanks to that. However, I have also had very little control. I would have learned it a lot sooner than I did had I not had to work my control up from low genin to high chunin or low junin. Shino replied, that is an impressive increase. Nonetheless, I also did not detect any abnormal chakra from you, so that was all you, correct? After scowling, Naruto uttered, yeah, I finally grew up, I guess you could say. He let a few bugs fly out of his coat sleeve toward the woods before he walked over and pushed a chair in the check-in station back against the wall. To Naruto's surprise, he sat down, slouched, and placed his feet on the desk. Shino nods and says, well, I am honored to know you. What guard duty is still a pain and boring as hell. Might as well sit down if you can. I will meditate, Shino said, observing Naruto's eyebrows rise. Naruto walked over and sat down, laughing and saying, I guess you're right. They remained silent until Naruto dispatched a cage bunshin to fetch them both some ramen. At that time, only 3 Junin and Anbu left the village. Shino said, thank you for not disturbing my meditation. As the day came to an end, and then he disappeared in a swarm of bugs. Naruto noticed one of the chunin glaring at him after being relieved by another pair that he did not recognize. He returned to his apartment, showered, ate, and fell asleep with a sigh and the thought, well, at least I got some respect now. The sound of someone knocking on his door woke him up again. The following morning he said, hello Sakura, what are you doing here? As he got out of bed, answered the door, and blinked when he saw who was standing there. Baka, why haven't you been at our team meeting spot? Tenten returned to her team yesterday, so? Sakura said, blinking as she realized the Chan was missing from her name. Naruto had had enough and clamped his hand over her mouth, glaring at her until she froze. As he stepped back before she could finish drawing her breath to scream, Naruto slammed the door in her face and said, look, I just got off of guard duty at the main gate around midnight last night and I need to check in with the Hokage to find out if I am even still on Team 7. Now be a good girl and go bitch at the Sasuke Teme and Kakashi Teme. After turning and stomping away, Sakura sighed and took about 3 steps before she stopped and thought, wait, why would he not be on Team 7 and why would he have guard duty? Only Chun, no way. According to inner Sakura, that Baka got chunin. Sakura glanced back at Naruto's door before sprinting in the direction of the Team 7 training area. Following Eva's instructions, Naruto reloaded the senbons into his arm. After taking a shower and getting dressed, he then hurriedly left his apartment and traveled via rooftop until he arrived at the Hokage Tower. Upon arriving, he noticed a number of people rushing around, so he hurried to the Hokage office and knocked on the door. Naruto opened the new doors after blowing off the previous ones. After hearing the Sandaime say, enter, the third door was sitting close to Tsunade, who was massaging her temples. As she looked up, glared, and asked, what do you want, brat? Naruto replied, well, I had guard duty last night and I came today to find out what happens now. Do I get a new team or am I going to get to train with Ero Sanin or what? The third person inquired, didn't Jiraiya come tell you he was going to start your training? Naruto replied, I haven't seen him since I left the other day. Relax, Haim, I was giving him a couple of days to rest before I started to teach him Kachiyose no Jutsu, Jiraiya said as Tsunade clenched her fist. When Tsunade saw Jiraiya enter through the window, he said, hey Gaki, how was it? With a blink, Naruto questioned, how was what? Tsunade questioned, what are you talking about, Jiraiya? Jiraiya replied, Gaki over here got his cherry popped by a cute Anbu named Yugo from what I hear. With narrowed eyes, Naruto questioned, who told you that? The third, wearing a shit-eating grin, questioned, "Is it true, Naruto?" Naruto replied, "I don't know what you're talking about. Besides, I don't see where it is any of your concern, Erojiji." Tsunade laughed and replied, "So I see your doctor did more than teach you about the birds and the bees. Must have been playing doctor as well." "Tsunade," was the scream Shizune let out as she emerged from the file room. "Relax, Shizune, I am sure you were very proper when teaching him. After all, why would you need to use mud clones?" Tsunade exclaimed, laughing when she saw Naruto and Shizune's red faces. Naruto said, "Granny, please change your diaper because I am sure with as much shit that is coming out of your mouth it must have come out your pants as well," as Shizune's face flushed. Everyone but Tsunade started laughing, and she flushed with rage while the Sandaime held her shoulders to prevent her from standing up. She cracked her knuckles in an attempt to think of something to say. Jiraiya laughed and grabbed Naruto, saying, "Come on Gaki. First we need to have you sign the contract with the Toads and then after that we have a mission to do. See you at the gates, sensei." They shushed away as the Sandaime nodded. "This is the Toad contract. Normally it would still be with the Toads but I got it before I came to get you at the Hokage office." Jiraiya claimed to have unrolled the contract after they arrived at Naruto's apartment. "As you can see, there is your father's name after mine. Now what I need you to do is sign your name here with your own blood and I will show you the hand signs after we get you packed," he said. After Eva removed the armor from his hand, Naruto cut his finger, smearing blood all over it. He then signed his name and placed his handprint over it. "All right kid, get ready for a month-long mission. Take this scroll and put whatever you think you'll need for that long in it by placing the item on the scroll and sending chakra into it. This is a mass storage scroll I made for you while you were having fun." Jiraiya then rolled the scroll up and slipped it on his back before throwing a thick scroll to Naruto. Jiraiya said, "Don't worry, I will be teaching you about seals also while we are away." After Naruto grabbed it, opened the scroll, and stared in confusion at the seals on it. "Where exactly are we going?" inquired Naruto as he disappeared in a whirl of leaves. Jiraiya said, "Suna, we are escorting Sensei and the children of the late Kazekage back to Suna to finish signing the new treaty. Now meet me at the main gate in 2 hours. "I don't have anything here I actually need besides my money," Naruto thought as he signed and surveyed his apartment. "I still have that ugly orange jumpsuit in my closet besides what I am wearing. Well, I could take a little of the food but I don't know if it will last besides my ramen in a seal." He sighed once more before heading out of his apartment. Sakura was at the Team 7 training ground at the time, holding her left side of her face and looking down with a few tears in her eyes. Rewind when Sakura saw Sasuke sitting there as she ran up to the bridge where Team 7 met. She exclaimed, "Hey Sasuke-kun, guess what I just found out? Naruto got promoted to chunin." Sakura had missed it, but Sasuke turned to her right away and asked, "What?" with a hint of rage in his voice. Sakura replied, "Yeah, I went by his apartment this morning since Tenten told us yesterday that she was returning to her team since Neji's eyes were better now and that her sensei was back as well and that Kakashi sensei actually is on time now. Anyways, he was asleep and I started to yell at him when he told me he had guard duty at the main gate until midnight last night and he had to go see the Hokage to see if he was even still on Team 7. Only chunin or higher get guard duty at the gate, so Naruto must have been promoted." "Why was the Dobi promoted? He is the dead last idiot," Sasuke said, clenching his fist. "Maybe it is because he beat Neji and also Gaara when he turned into that monster from what I hear," Sakura said, biting her lip. "How could the Dobi defeat both of them? I am stronger than him, and they promoted him while holding me back," Sasuke thought, clenching his fist. According to Sakura, it could also be the fact he used that hidden mist jutsu or how he used an exploding clone, or maybe it was because of him using those exploding senbons, or it could be because he leaned to fly. Sasuke clenched his fist harder and harder at everything Sakura named off, and blood began to slowly pour out of it when she said the last thing. Sasuke snapped and punched her right on the left side of her face, sending her flying. He screamed in rage, and Sakura, with tears in her eyes, held her face while attempting to move away from Sasuke. Sasuke was thinking, "This village is holding me back. I need that power to kill my brother just like this, just like he said they would do. They try to hold the power back from me to make me weak. I will learn what I can hear and then I will leave to learn to use this power and then I will find Itachi and kill him," as he experienced the strength of the curse seal through his body. Sakura noticed Sasuke's curse seal gradually fading after a few moments, at which point he turned away from her and peered off the bridge. Finish the flashback. When Kakashi reached the bridge, he saw Sakura clutching her face and Sasuke facing away from her. He asked, "Is everything alright?" as he watched Sakura wince and Sasuke give her a glare. Turning to face Kakashi, Sasuke commanded, "Teach me everything the Dobi knows." Kakashi replied, "You already copied the Kage Bunshin with your Sharingan, Sasuke." With a fierce expression on his face, Sasuke said, I am talking about all the things you taught him to make him chunin. Kakashi looked at him and thought, so that is what is going on. Sasuke knows about Naruto and he must have hit Sakura, but unless she says something I can't do anything about it since Sasuke can claim it was a sparing incident. He replied, I don't know what Naruto knows since I trained you, remember? Sasuke replied, and it was useless. The Dobi can fly, use the hidden mist jutsu, use senbons like that hunter nin did, and also knows exploding clones. Teach me how to do those. Kakashi replied, I don't know how to fly, Sasuke, and I doubt Naruto can. Sakura cut him off, flinching once more as Sasuke and Kakashi glared at her, each wishing she would stop talking for a different reason. He can. I saw it myself at the stadium. Kakashi reached for his book and replied, as for the hidden mist jutsu, you don't have the chakra control for it yet. Since you're a fire element, I don't know how to use senbons enough to teach you, and as for the exploding clones, you don't have the reserves for it. Sasuke asked, then how does the Dobi have the control and the reserves for it? Kakashi put away the book he had opened and said, think about it, Sasuke. Naruto has always had larger reserves than you. The control he learned tree walking like you, and water walking I figure, but after that I don't know since I don't know who taught him those things. With his fist clenched, Sasuke turned away and uttered, then where is the Dobi? I will ask him myself. The other two turned to face a man who was approaching with white hair, red marks on his face, a large scroll on his back, and a demon headband with the kanji for oil on it. Kakashi recoiled when the voice said, quite a prodigy you have there, Kakashi. No wonder you turned your back on your other students for him. What can I do for you, Jiraiya-sama? Kakashi scowled. Sakura's eyes widened as she realized who Naruto was, and Sasuke clenched his fist until the bones started to break when Jiraiya said, oh, I just came to tell you that Naruto won't be coming to your team assignments anymore because I have taken him as my apprentice. It was Kakashi who said, I understand, Jiraiya replied, I don't think you do. Do you have any idea what kind of prodigy you let slip through your fingers? Kakashi, Naruto has not only already learned the Rasengan but improved on it, also creating a long-distance version of the Rasengan. As he was abruptly flung from a punch to the face by Jiraiya, who materialized in front of Kakashi and kicked him in the ribs, grabbing his ribs and cold cocking him in the side of the head over his good eye. Kakashi questioned, don't you think that Naruto is not mad? Holding his stomach, Kakashi collapsed to the ground. Jiraiya said with a firm tone as he released, don't even think about finishing that sentence. If you would have used the brain behind that fucking eye you are so proud of, then you would realize that he is not only more mentally mature than you could believe, but he is also smart enough to know when to use it and when not to. I am beginning to teach him Kachiyose no Jutsu, and I expect by the time he returns from our mission he will be summoning Gambunta. Naruto knows who his parents are, and so he knows about your connection to his father. You say those who abandon their comrades are worse than trash. Well, guess what, Kakashi? You're a fucking hypocrite who is trash that has been turned to ash and blown to the wind. Finally fed up, Sasuke uttered the words, why the hell do you train the Dobi? He is an idiot. After seeing the bruise on Sakura's face, Jiraiya clenched his fist and decided he could take no more. He went to Sasuke and punched him in the stomach, knocking the wind out of him, before chopping him on the back of the neck. As Kakashi stood up and asked, what are you doing? While holding his stomach, Sakura began to speak, but was interrupted by the pain of the punch to the face. Jiraiya then produced a bottle of ink. He finished the seal he was drawing and activated it, causing Sasuke to wake up long enough to scream in pain before passing back out. Jiraiya said, you are a disgrace. Kakashi, the boy here attacks his teammate and you do nothing about it. Let me guess. You thought as long as she didn't say anything you wouldn't have to do anything, right? Look at her, Kakashi. She's scared off him as of right now. Kakashi, this boy has lost his bloodline. As he approached and noticed a seal next to each of Sasuke's eyes, Kakashi questioned, is it permanent? Jiraiya replied, it is until I unseal it, and I won't until not only do I see that you have made a complete turn around, but also that he is punished correctly, and nobody in this village but me can unseal it, and the council or Tsunadeheim ordering me to release it won't work. Girl, if I was you, then you either need to quit being a ninja, or if you actually are serious about being one and not a fangirl, then you need to find a teacher to teach you, because Kakashi here is just going to sit back and either let an enemy kill you or your own teammate goodbye. As he walked away, looking down at Sakura and Sasuke, who were unable to look into her teacher's eyes, Kakashi thought, am I really that bad of a sensei? Forgive me. She wondered, is he right? Is Kakashi-sensei just going to let me die? Dustin was sitting behind the counter when Naruto entered the Wolf Claw a short while later. He sat up when Naruto asked, what can I do for you today? Is your daughter here? Naruto asked, surveying the area. Dustin looked at Naruto and remarked, no, she getting ready for a mission. Why? With narrowed eyes, Naruto uttered, I wanted to talk to you without anyone listening, and why were you going to give me my order free the other day? Dustin laughed as he said, I just want to say I am impressed with the way you have turned out. I mean the way you're willing to face the devil himself, kicking and screaming to show the world who you are. More than you know, Naruto asked, is that the real reason? Dustin stated, not everyone is out to get you, Naruto. Some people want to actually help you along the way. They may have their own reason why, but there are some who do, and I am one of them. I have my reasons. What they are my own, but I have a reason to want to see you succeed in showing everyone who you really are. Biting his lip, Naruto said, thank you. Dustin asked, so what is it you need today? With a smile. Naruto was saying, I need some supplies. Ero-sanin gave me this scroll and told me to pack for a month-long mission to Suna. This scroll is supposed to be able to hold several items, but I don't really know that much about it. I need supplies and to put them in this scroll. Looking perplexed, Dustin glanced at Naruto and replied, alright, I think I understand you want to get some supplies for this mission, but you don't know what you need and how to use that scroll, right? Naruto replied, yeah, I just have trouble understanding sealing. For some reason I know how to unseal stuff, but everything else about it confuses me, and I never been to Suna before, so I don't really know what to expect on the mission, and I guess since I never actually had money to buy correct supplies before, I don't know what I should pack. Dustin stated, my late wife used to say the answer to solving any problem is to first understand what you have a problem with, then once you know that, then you solve that problem, then you go from there. After considering what Dustin had said, Naruto blinked and remarked, so if I know I have problem with seals, then I should solve that problem. Dustin replied, yeah, but seals will take a while to learn. I can give you a book on basic sealing to help you learn. It's where I learned them from. With a smile, Naruto uttered, I would like that. Dustin replied, good, now how about we solve your other problem about getting your supplies for your mission? What do you have sealed so far? With a sheepish expression, Naruto said, nothing. Sweat trickled down Dustin's face as he asked, okay, what about your clothes? According to Naruto, well, I was wanting to get new cloths. With a nod, Dustin said, well, I can help you with that. Anything particular you were wanting? Naruto replied, I am not really for sure. All I ever been able to buy before was those orange jumpsuits, so I don't really know what to wear. Besides that, these were bought for me while I was recovering from injuries. Blinking, Dustin inquired, what injuries? With a head scratch, Naruto uttered, I sort of broke my left arm. I see. Well, it's good to see that you're back to normal, so let's get you some cloths. Dustin thought, must have been the thrust cannon. Wonder what happened to the safety shock absorbers. He put his hand to his chin, looked at Naruto, and then began to walk around the store, grabbing a few items before putting them back, before entering the stock room. The dressing room is over there where the number one is. Just go in and try those on and tell me if you like them or if they're the wrong size, he said, passing Naruto a stack of clothes when he returned. Naruto nods and enters the room, thinking, Eva, could you please drop the suit for a few minutes? After the door has been closed. As the suit fell and Naruto removed his clothes, Eva said, yes. He then started to put them on gradually. Naruto blinked and rubbed his chest, thinking, wonder how this was able to mold around the power cell so perfectly. It is almost like it was specifically made for me somehow. After finishing, he looked in the mirror and said, wow, this is cool. He was wearing black combat boots, black Anbu pants, and a black modified chunin, Anbu armor vest with multiple scroll pockets. Now you look like a chunin, Naruto, Dustin said after giving Naruto a quick glance and nod. I proceeded to get you 2 weeks worth of the same model of clothing, with some red, blue, and green thrown in. Well, something's missing, but I got it, he said, entering the back once more and emerging with an object that caused Naruto's eyes to enlarge. I think you might want to have something to shield you from the weather a little, Dustin said. This should work, as he held up a black cloak with blue flames on the bottom of it and blue flames on the cuffs of the sleeves as well. It was finished off with a hood that would cover the top of Naruto's head. Reaching for it slowly, Naruto remarked, it looks so much like the Yondaim's coat. Instead it is black where his is white. Well, hurry up and see if it fits, Dustin said. After pulling the hood up and putting it on, Naruto remarked, I can't believe how well this fits me. Dustin replied, what can I say, I have an eye for detail, so do you like? With a nod, Naruto queries, how much? Dustin replied, 14 changes of cloths including the one you're wearing, the cloak, plus 4 first aid kits, ninja wire, 10 sets of shurikens and 10 sets of kunai along with 10 more boxes of senbons just in case. That will be $4, 250. Dustin said, oh, I forgot, look at the flames on your cloak sleeves. Before Naruto could finish his sentence, he turned to face them. Inquiring, Naruto said, what about them? Dustin continued, Inside the flames is a storage seal on each arm. Since drawing weapons from your weapon pouches will take time that could cost you your life, I designed those for quick access for shurikens and kunais, your right-handed right. As he opened a box of shurikens and set them on the flames, Dustin said, "Good, then what you should do is store your kunais in your right sleeve and your shurikens in your left like this." Naruto nodded, and Dustin's words were followed by an amazing explosion of smoke. "How do I unseal them?" asks Naruto. Dustin touched Naruto's forearm and remarked, "Just send chakra into your arm around here and one will unseal." Before paying Dustin, Naruto nods and hastily stuffs all 10 boxes of shurikens and kunais into his sleeves. Dustin quickly demonstrated how to seal the cloths, the book on basic sealing, and the other items. After grabbing the scroll Naruto had brought with him, Naruto then went into the changing room, grabbed his old clothes, sealed them, and had Eva turn on his armor again under his cloak. He then walked back out, and Dustin remarked, "Well, aside from getting some food and water, I think you're set." "Will food go bad if it's sealed?" inquired Naruto. Dustin replied, "No, a sealed item is frozen in time exactly as it was when it was sealed as long as the seal holding it was drawn right." As he began to walk away, Naruto remarked, "Okay, that sounds good, I guess I better get going then." "Have you thought of a melee weapon yet?" inquired Dustin. After pausing, Naruto blinked and inquired, "What is a melee weapon?" Dustin replied, "Like a sword, whip, scythe, club, staff, things like that." Eva said to Naruto, "Remember, I have a scythe and a sword. If he has anything on either of them along with a staff, you should get it so you could learn to use them." Naruto responded, "Do you have anything on a staff, scythe, or sword?" With a nod, Dustin entered the back and emerged with 6 books, saying, "I have 2 on each, so here you go, free." He then gave them to Naruto. "Thank you again for everything. I got to get some food and only a little time to do it, CYA, Naruto said as he hurried away after taking them and sealing them. With a sly smile, Dustin said, "Good luck, kid." When Naruto walked into a grocery store, he heard a rough voice say, "Get out of here, we don't want your kind in here." Naruto turned to face the man behind the counter and scowled before turning to leave. He heard Eva say, "Relax, Naruto, you can't change everyone just like that, but you have made a good start. Don't ruin it by trying to get revenge," as he sat down on a bench outside the store. Naruto closed his eyes, inhaled deeply, and then exhaled. He blinked when he opened them to see a 9-year-old girl with pale eyes staring at him from about 3 inches in front of his face. As he leaned back, Naruto said, "Can I help you?" "Why is it my family taijutsu does not work on you?" the girl asked, tapping Naruto's chest. "Secret," said Naruto. The child grumbled, "Why does my sister like you so much? I don't see anything about you that should make her obsessed with you besides being immune to our family jutsu." Naruto responded, "Who is your sister and who are you, little Hyuga?" Naruto scowled at Neji, who also had one, as a voice he recognized instantly said, "She is Hanabi-sama, sister to Hinata-sama, youngest daughter of Hiyashi-sama." Naruto replied, "So did you ever tell Hinata you're sorry for what you did to her?" According to Neji, "Why should I?" Naruto breathed a sigh of relief and replied, "Because all she had to do to beat you in that match was activate your seal and she would have won, but she let you attack her. I think she wanted to make peace between you and her, or maybe between the branch and main family." "And what makes you think you know anything about the Hyuga family affairs?" Neji asked, squinting his eyes. Naruto got up and said to Hanabi, "Not much besides what I can see and hear. Of course it looks like I can see better than you can because I can see that Hinata loves you. Too bad you're too much of an idiot to see it. Hope you take after your sister Firecracker, because if you follow the same path in him then all you're going to have is loneliness." CYA Screwdriver, as he started to leave. As she watched the Konohamaru Corp play with Naruto, Hanabi blinked and turned to face the red-faced Neji. She thought, "Strange, he shows no fear of Neji or me even after he finds out who I am. He is diff what in the world." When Neji noticed this, he turned and started to leave, saying, "Come Hanabi-sama, I must return you to the compound before I have to go to see the Hokage." He had noticed a shout of, "Hey boss," a few moments prior to Naruto leaving. Naruto turned to see Konohamaru, Uden, and Moegi running toward him. They stopped in front of him, and he said, "Hey gang, what's up?" "Hey boss," Konohamaru said, "I heard you made chunin." Naruto replied, "Yeah, what of it? It appears that you are one step closer to becoming Hokage than I am," Konohamaru remarked. "Actually I am 2 steps ahead of you. First, I already graduated from the academy, and second, I am chunin while you are still in the academy," Naruto said, placing his hand to his chin. Konohamaru sulked and uttered the words, "No fair boss." As he recalled Haku, Zabuza, and Hayate. Naruto said, life is hardly fair. Konohamaru, if it was then a lot of people who died would still be alive. He had a distant expression on his face. That's no fun, boss. Konohamaru scowled, adding, you need to think happy thoughts, not sad ones. Naruto grinned and replied, I know that, gang. I just was remembering a couple of people who are not here anymore. Tell you what, guys, I don't have very long before I have to leave on another mission, but how about I teach you all something really cool? The three children's eyes widened and they began to leap about, attracting Hanabi's attention as they fled. 5 minutes or so later, the four of them were standing at the academy when Naruto moved up the side of one of the trees and said, okay, gang, what I am going to teach you is how to walk on trees. This made the three of them wide-eyed. Moegi replied, that was so cool, boss. How did you do that? Naruto stated, this is a chakra control exercise. What you have to do is channel chakra to your feet and use it to stick to the side to much and you blow off into little and you fall off. This is an exercise that takes an exact amount of chakra. Use a kunai to mark how far you make it, while jumping off. Konohamaru replied, just watch, boss, I will learn this and be catch up to you soon. Then Naruto turned and walked away, grinning and saying, I hope so, Konohamaru, I hope so. Look, I just remembered I got one more place to go before I need to leave, so take care of each other and I will see you when I get back. CYA. Gathering chakra, Konohamaru ran at the tree and fell off, saying, okay gang, let's show the boss we can do this by the time he gets back from his mission. When Naruto arrived at his destination, which took roughly 10 minutes, he looked around and thought, this is the right place, right Eva? Yes, Eva replied. After giving a nod, Naruto went to knock on the door. Well, hello again, what are you doing here, Naruto? Come to rob my panties again, Yugo said as the door opened a few moments later and he emerged in the door frame. No, I just wanted to tell you that I have a month-long mission to Suna and Naruto said, flushed. Smirking, Yugo remarked, and you wanted to tell me so I wouldn't worry about you. Feeling a finger on his lips, Naruto rubbed the back of his head and uttered, well, not in so many words, but I just didn't want you to think I was avoiding you. And Eva, did you just drop the helmet? He asked, blinking, but got no response. As she stepped forward, wrapped her arms around Naruto's shoulder, and felt real flesh, Yugo grinned and said, looks like you got sold out. She also asked, why did you come here, Naruto? I mean, you could have left without telling me and I wouldn't have gotten mad, so why did you come here? After swallowing, Naruto looked into her eyes and said, Yugo's eyes softened and said, I think I understand. You take care of yourself, Naruto. I know we're supposed to be allies of Suna again, but one of them killed Hayate. He was killed with a wind jutsu. You come back alive and I will be glad to see you return. When Yugo pulled him into an embrace and said, be careful, as she stepped back and shut the door, Naruto grinned slightly and said, thanks, I guess I better get going. CYA. Naruto grinned as he walked away. She entered the front room of Yugo's house and saw Kurenai there. Kurenai asked, so what's up? Yugo replied, oh, it was Naruto. He came by to tell me he had a mission and wouldn't be back for a little while. Really? Kurenai said, glaring at her, sounds like someone who is in love would do. Or someone who wants someone to be glad they came back alive. I think he wanted to make sure that I didn't feel alone again. Yugo sat down, picked up her tea glass, and sipped her tea thoughtfully. Kurenai responded, but why you? For someone you claim you didn't really do anything with sure seems kind of friendly. You are reading too much into it. Kurenai, all he is to me is a friend, something I needed a lot lately. Yugo shrugged and pondered, maybe because he trusts me. Kurenai let out a sigh. Alright, I believe you, but I wanted to make sure you don't get hurt again. He is 7 years younger than you and you're still recovering from Hayate. I don't want to see you using him as a rebound because you both deserve more than that. Yugo looks at him and says, well, if you don't mind, Kurenai, I got patrol tonight and I need a few hours of sleep. Yugo sighed as Kurenai nodded and hurried off, thinking, it could also be because he knows the pain of being alone, something I am getting to know real well, as she made her way to her bedroom and listened to the silence in the house. The Sandaime and Jiraiya were waiting at the main gate when Naruto arrived. Tenten was also standing there, but she was glaring at Temari, who was grinning. Jiraiya then remarked, ah Gaki, I see you could make it and only 5 minutes late. Sorry, I had to buy new supplies and, Naruto said. Tenten replied, looks like you got them from my dad's shop. I recognize the cloak you're wearing as one dad has been working on lately. After examining it, the third person remarked, interesting design, Naruto. As he turned to face Jiraiya, Naruto remarked, yeah, I think it's sort of nostalgic. Jiraiya replied, Very reminds me of my last student in a way. Now if you don't mind, I think we should get going, don't you, sensei? Yes, the Sandaime replied, we have to get these three back home. Tenten continued to glare at the smirking Temari and asked, what exactly am I here for? Both of their eyes widened when the Sandaime said, you are here because you were on the same team as Naruto here. Naruto responded, wait a minute, why is she on my team when she already on Super Fuzzy Brow's team? The Sandaime continued, currently we have two genin teams that are unable to do missions. Team 7 and Team 9. When you were removed from Team 7 due to your advancement and being selected as Jiraiya new apprentice, I suggested to Tsunade that Neji be placed as the third member of Team 7 as their scout, the position that you previously held because of your Kajubuntion. Even though you are Jiraiya apprentice, he won't be your full-time sensei guy, will be to help you with your taijutsu, which is one of your greatest weakness currently. But what about Lee? He's like a son to Guy, asked Naruto, wide-eyed. All four genin were wide-eyed when Jiraiya sighed. Odds are Lee will never be able to resume duty ever again. Naruto, he is nearly in as bad of shape as you were and you nearly died because of your arm. Well, if he and I are on the same team, then who will our third member be? Tenten scowled. Ignoring Naruto and Tenten's curious glances, the Sandaime said, you will learn later, we must be going, and started to leave through the gates. Tenten sighed as she approached Naruto and raised her hand, saying, it's a pleasure to be teamed up with you. She blinked and narrowed her eyes at the sensation of his hand. Naruto replied, thanks, and I look forward to working with you in the future. Damn it, all this tree-hugging crap is getting on my nerves. Can we go so I can get my fan back? Temari snarled in exasperation. To his sibling's surprise, Gaara approached and extended his hand, saying, it's nice to see you again, Naruto. After shaking his hand, Naruto inquired, how are you, Gaara? According to Gaara, I am sleeping well thanks to you. As Naruto put it, what are friends for? After glancing at the wide-eyed Kankuro, Temari shook her head as Naruto started to leave the gates. Gaara then started to follow him, and Tenten hurried up to catch him and pace alongside him. Jiraiya then started to follow Temari and Kankuro as they started to walk behind them. Another meeting was taking place in the Hokage office. As they were leaving the gates, Neji was already in the office when Team 7 arrived, and Tsunade said, so this is Team 7 now. I am sure you noticed that you are currently short one member, and what is your problem, Uchiha? She also noticed Sasuke glaring at Kakashi. Turning to face her, Sasuke commanded, release my Sharingan. Looking at Kakashi, Tsunade blinked and remarked, Jiraiya-sama sealed off his Sharingan earlier. With her eyes narrowed, Tsunade questioned, and why did he do that? Because he, said Sasuke. Tsunade glanced at Sakura and noticed the bruise on her face as Kakashi, fearing what Sasuke might say, interrupted him and said, because Jiraiya-sama did not approve of the way Sasuke interacts with his other teammate. Tsunade replied, I assume that the bruise she has on her face is what you are referring to and that it was not part of a spar. Sakura flinched and looked down as Sasuke said, no, it wasn't. She just does not know when to shut up to her betters. Kakashi thought, oh shit. Tsunade gave Sasuke a little ki. First, your attitude is most disturbing and I find your lack of support in your teammate appalling. You will show me the proper respect, GENNIN, or I will have you chakra sealed off as well as your bloodline permanate. Second. When Tsunade unleashed a tremendous amount of ki on Sasuke, Sakura froze, Neji perspired, and Kakashi thought, oh god, we're all dead. All I wanted was to do things at my own pace, read my book, and enjoy life. Sasuke screamed, you can't do that, you senile bitch. Now you little pissant, I don't like you and I don't care who your family was. As far as I am concerned, the only good Uchiha is a dead one. Tsunade stood up from her desk and grabbed Sasuke by the neck, lifting him off the ground until he was 2 feet in the air. Her words caused everyone to gasp. Tsunade went on, your clan has been nothing but a headache for years, and to tell the truth, when I heard about your clan massacre I bought the entire bar a round of drinks. Hell, if it were within my power I would have Itachi given complete pardon and a hero welcome back to Konoha for doing such a great deed. Now you will mind your place, follow orders, or I will send you to join the rest of your clan. He was shoved toward the wall with enough force that a spider web appeared. She stepped back and said, Kakashi, I expect the next time you bring your students into my office they show the proper respect, or it will be you receiving their punishment. Neji Hyuga, you are now a member of Team 7 replacing Naruto Uzumaki. Neji smirked as he watched Sasuke get owned and remarked, I understand, Hokage-sama. Sakura inquired, what about Naruto? Kakashi flinched and looked down as Tsunade turned to face her and said, Naruto has been taken as the official apprentice of Jiraiya when he is in town and will be on Team 9 under Guy along with Tenten and another. Now I have a question for you. I know your sensei failed at teaching Naruto, so what has he taught you? Sakura inquired. What do you mean Kakashi sensei failed Naruto? He taught him tree climbing like he did me and Sasuke. Is that all he taught you, Sakura? Tsunade inquired. With a bewildered expression, Sakura uttered, well yeah, why? Sakura, did you know that your sensei himself stated that he only entered you into the chunin exams to gain experience and to let Sasuke become a chunin? He never expected either you or Naruto to pass the exams, and when Naruto did, Kakashi turned his back on him and told him he wasn't worth his time, Tsunade said, glaring at Kakashi. Kakashi turned away, ignoring Sakura's shocked expression or Neji's glare. Neji believed, if nothing else, he was worth more of your time than the Uchiha. After all, he was able to defeat me. Is that true, Kakashi sensei? Sakura asked quietly. Kakashi nodded and sighed, and Sakura looked down. Recalling Jiraiya's words, Sakura then turned to face Tsunade and said, Hokage-sama, I don't have any skills besides having perfect chakra control and the 3 academy jutsu. I would like to ask permission to become your apprentice. Kakashi turned to face her in shock, remembering Jiraiya's words as well, and then he looked down, thinking, I really have failed as a sensei. After glancing at Sakura, Tsunade uttered the words, Shizune. This prompted Shizune to exit the room through the side door. She said, yes, Tsunade-sama. Tsunade glanced at her and said, I want you to get a copy of the first 10 books that I had you study when I took you as my apprentice and give them to Sakura here. When you get them ready, when she has memorized them, I want you to test her on her knowledge. If she can learn them all and pass your test as well as learn 3 medical jutsu that all field medics know, I will think about letting her become a medic nin. Hi Tsunade-sama, Shizune said, I can have it by tomorrow. With wide eyes, Sakura questioned, does that mean you will teach me? Tsunade said, perhaps, but only if you truly impress me. After all, my only apprentice so far is Shizune here, and she will always be my top priority since she is one of my precious people. Shizune glanced at Tsunade, who acknowledged that she was referring to Naruto, and Shizune smiled. Sakura made everyone blink when she said, I will master Tsunade. Tsunade replied, Master, I like the sound of that. Now the mission Team 7 has is washing the Hokage monument. The fires from the invasion deposited large amounts of ash on the monument faces, and when the contractors begin adding my face to the monument, I don't want them complaining about hazard pay from the ash, so you are to wash the monument. As for you Uchiha, you are responsible for 5D rank missions a week by yourself as punishment for your failure of the chunin exams. Your mission for today after your team mission is capture Tora, the Fire Lord's cat, Neji replied with a snicker. Sakura said, Hi Master Tsunade, as she bowed and started to move toward the door, while Tsunade ignored the snicker and said, You're all dismissed. Everyone walked in silence for the next 4 hours until they reached a fork in the road, where Naruto stopped while the others continued to walk. Jiraiya halted as he passed Naruto, attracting everyone's attention with the question, Is something wrong, Gaki? The Sandaime turned to face Naruto again and saw that he was wearing a detached expression. As Naruto kept his gaze on the road, he said, Hey Gigi, how long does it take to get to Suna from here? Tamari responded, Oi, what's your problem? We're all going this way. The Sandaime replied, It's 2 days hard travel from here if we went full out all the way. Why? Gazing at the Sandaime, Naruto questioned, Do we have a set day to be in Suna? We have to be there in 10 days. Why? Asked the Sandaime. Naruto stated, I just recalled that Konoha still has to collect the extra cash for the mission Team 7 did in Wave that was upgraded. It's only a half day's travel from here, and we could get a warm bed and hot meal for tonight, and we could leave tomorrow and only add about a half day extra travel if we go by trees. The Sandaime widened his eyes. That may be true, but we have the 3 Suna shinobi here to think about and they want to go home, so unless you have a good reason to head that way or they agree to it, I don't see any reason to make the trip there currently. With a scowl, Naruto remarked, I see. The Sandaime inquired, What is so important that you wish to go to Wave? Naruto, it's not like you to ask for something unless you have a very good reason. There is a private matter I have to take care of there. I am sorry for stalling everyone. Naruto began to approach Suna, but he bit his lip. The Sandaime asked, What is the private matter you need to go there for? As everyone stared at him, Naruto stated, There was something I ordered special there that should be done now. I was going to come back after the exam to get it, but with everything that went down I haven't had a chance, and I am worried that when we come back in a month that it might not still be there. Jiraiya rubbed his right arm, where Naruto's had been broken, and inquired, Does it have anything to do with that? Naruto replied, no, it's just something I needed to order because of what happened on Team 7 mission to Wave. Do any of you have a problem with making a small detour? The Sandaime asked, scowling as he glanced at the Suna siblings. Naruto stated, if it helps I am willing to pay you each $500 for the day of wasted time, and with the way Wave has recovered I am sure you all might be able to find something there you like, with an authoritative tone. Tenten looked at Naruto's beseeching expression and remarked, I don't see a problem with it. Tamari said, Gaara, you can't do that, I mean we. After Gaara saw the expression and said, we will do it. Temari's eyes softened as she turned to face Gaara, who interrupted her and said, please Tamari, he is one of my precious people, if it were not for him I would still not be able to sleep and Shukaku would still be able to attack and kill you. All of them scowled when Tenten asked, who is Shukaku? Gaara stated, Shukaku is the Aikibi no Shukaku, the one-tailed demon, weakest of the Biju. It was sealed into me by order of my father to make me a super weapon for Suna. Tenten, is a kunai sealed in a scroll the same as the scroll? Naruto asked as Tenten began to speak. Tenten said, of course not, why, blinking. Shukaku is the kunai, and Gaara is the scroll, Naruto stated. Tenten glanced at him and responded, I already know that I use sealing a lot so I know the difference, but what I was wondering is why Shukaku could get free before but not now based on what everyone was saying. Jiraiya explained, before the invasion Gaara had a weak seal with a berserker seal on top of it making him unstable, preventing him from going to sleep unless the demon took control of him. After the invasion I put a new seal on him and it made it where Gaara can sleep and not have to worry about the demon. Tenten inquired, how were they able to seal a demon into Gaara and what effect did it have on you besides being able to take over your body? Gaara stated, Shukaku was sealed into me when I was still inside my mother and it cost her life. Besides not being able to sleep I have larger chakra reserves than a normal person along with my ability to control sand and my automatic defense that protects me. Tenten inquired, but why did they seal it into you before you were born? Why not put it in an adult? He turned his back on everyone and gazed down the road to Wave once more and said, an adult's chakra coils are already developed and cannot handle the strain of having the demon's chakra put into his or her coils, releasing the demon back into the world, killing the adult. The only way to successfully seal a demon is to seal it into an infant who is either just about to be born or one who's only a few hours old, so that as the child grows up the coils would adjust and make it where the child could absorb the chakra, making it their own. Tenten inquired, that sand creature you turned into during the invasion, that was Shukaku, wasn't it? Gaara nods as she looks at Naruto and asks, how do you know so much about it, Naruto, and how were you able to defeat a demon? The Yondaime did it, but it cost him his life and he was the Hokage. You were a genin, and what did you mean when you said that when Kyuubi met you that it was fucked during the exams, while gazing at him? With a sigh, Naruto started to move once more and uttered, my birthday is the same as your name, figure it out. Tenten's eyes widened as she realized that day was the day Kyuubi attacked, and she blinked, thinking, Tenten October 10 inches. She then asked, so you like Gaara? The Sandaime sighed and said, Jinchuriki, the power of a human sacrifice, that is what those who have a demon sealed into them are called. Gaara here was turned into one to make him a weapon. Naruto here was chosen to save our village by the Yondaime. There are those who wanted to turn Naruto into a weapon like other villages such as Suna. I refused to do that and I wanted him to have as normal a life as he could. I issued a law that if anyone were to mention the true fate of the Kyuubi to those who did not know, that I would have them punished or executed. The Yondaime asked that Naruto be viewed as a hero, causing him to snort. Naruto replied, let's just go. Gigi, you don't have to explain your actions or the actions of others because it won't matter. You should know that by now people will believe what they want. I have come to terms that I am nothing more than a sacrificial lamb who pays for all those who were hurt or died by the actions of who or what is a part of me, as he started walking towards Suna. Tenten thought, that's almost what Dad said about Eva, as the Sandaime cast a sorrowful glance at Naruto. Rewind. Dustin nods and continues, good, I hate to do this but you can't tell anyone about what you saw. If people found out my connection to Eva and what she represents, then people will come for me and will use you to get to me. Eva, what Eva represents is my sins. What your mother and I created was something that we wanted to help save people. But in the end it wound up destroying hundreds of lives in a country. Someday it could even destroy the world. I wanted to redeem what your mother and I created, and I used an innocent as a sacrifice, but I believe that my sins will be forgiven someday. I hope when I meet your mother for real on the other side that I can tell her that our sins were forgiven, as he entered. Final flashback. Tenten looked at Naruto and thought, his hands, they felt like metal. She wondered, could Naruto be the sacrifice that he used, and if so, what connections does he have to Eva? He was there right before Eva appeared. Kankuro put his hand on her shoulder and whispered, "Let's do it sis, the past few weeks have been great not having to worry about being killed by being close to our brother," he actually asked in his own way and is trying. "I know I want to go home as well. But a day is not really that long." Tenten was lost in thought as the Sandaime looked sadly. Jiraiya was leaning against a tree, Gaara had his arm crossed looking at his siblings, and Tamari bit her lip. It was loud enough for everyone to hear Tamari sigh and say, "Fine, but you have to pay us like you said, and you had better be right about a hot meal and a soft bed." With a grin on his face, Naruto responded, "I am, just you wait, come on, let's go." He then ran the 100 feet back to Suna and began heading toward Wave. As the group began to follow Naruto down the road, the Sandaime turned to face Jiraiya, who nodded and started to follow them. When the group reached the famous Naruto Bridge a few hours later, Kankuro exclaimed, "What the hell, why is this bridge named after you?" Naruto's eyes were wide, and everyone else's were too. As he started across the bridge, Naruto turned to look back with regret and uttered the words, "Because here is where my innocence died." The Sandaime, who thought, "Damn you Kakashi, if you would have been a real sensei to all your students and not showed favoritism in your reports, then I would know what he is talking about," was among those who appeared perplexed by this. Just as the group crossed the bridge and entered the town, they noticed that a number of kids ran up to Naruto and yelled for him to pick them up and play with them. Adults were either smiling, nodding, or making small bows, and some of the girls were blushing as they gazed at him. Jiraiya observed Naruto's ease around the people here and remarked, "Sensei, this is how he should have been seen in Konoha. If this is how they view him, then someday he may come here to live if Konoha does not change. Consequences be damned," the Sandaime reflected as he looked down with sadness. Smiling, Naruto said, "Hey everyone, tell you what, if I show you all a cool trick, would you all let me and my company through? It's been a long journey and I have a lot to do in only a short amount of time." The children were yanking at his pants and yelling his name. Many of the children became very excited and responded, "Yeah." After giving a nod, Naruto leapt into the air and started to float, startling Kankuro, Tamari, and Tenten, who were unable to witness his flight due to the fighting. A number of children yelled, "But we already saw you fly." All of the ninja tensed as they felt chakra start to gather in his left hand, but they could hardly see the blue glow. Naruto said, "I know, so just wait for it." He closed his eyes and held his left hand above his head, then he raised his right hand and jerked it for a second before a blue ball of chakra shot out of his left hand. An explosion shook the sky about 100 feet in the air, followed by 9 more, and the children cried out, "Fireworks!" As the children cheered and started to return to their parents, who applauded and listened to their children's cheers, Naruto gently landed on the ground and said, "See, neat trick huh?" Naruto said, "All right, sorry about the wait, I will show you all to where we can stay the night," as he started to leave after the crowd had dispersed. Tamari responded, "What is he? Bipolar? He changes from all happy and excited to sad and depressed at the drop of a hat." "It's because he let his emotional mask drop," the Sandaime sighed, starting to follow Naruto. "What you all saw was probably something he has hardly ever shown anyone, the real him, not the happy-go-lucky idiot who screams for attention like you all saw in the exams." As he followed, Jiraiya thought, "That is also the way his mother was. She carried her emotions on her sleeves." The group was deep in thought. They soon arrived at a 2-story house, and Naruto approached and knocked on the door. When the door opened, a woman's voice said, "Just a moment." Tsunami then emerged, her eyes brightening, and she said, "Naruto?" She pulled him into an embrace, and he grinned, giving her a hug in return and saying, "Hello Tsunami, how are you doing?" Tsunami released his grip and planted a kiss on his head, causing him to look perplexed for a moment as he felt the kiss and remarked, "I've been good, I got promoted like I said I would." Tsunami replied, "Congratulations, come on in. And who is all these people, Naruto?" Naruto replied, "Oh, let me introduce you. This is my new teammate Tenten, my part-time sensei Jiraiya, the Sandaime Hokage of Konoha, and this is our diplomatic escort to Suna, Tamari, Kankuro, and Gaara. We were on our way to Suna when I requested to stop by here to get that extra pay from the old drunk and to finish a few things I had left to do." Tsunami responded, "Well, it's a pleasure to have such an honored group here, and normally I would let you all stay here, but the K's Nami Inn just opened 2 weeks ago, and seeing as you are the owner of it, I figure you would want your guests to stay there, right?" Despite everyone's shocked expressions, Naruto said, "Yeah, but I still don't see why you all are doing that for me." "Because you turned down the job of being the feudal lord here in Wave, making me the take the job, you blonde baka," said a voice that made Naruto smile. "What do you mean, the feudal lord Tazuna? And it is good to see you again," the Sandaime asked, glancing at the newcomer and recognizing him. Tazuna, who was wearing a business suit, replied, Exactly what I mean. After Gato was killed, the people here ran the old feudal lord out of the country, vowing to kill him if he ever returned, since he sold us out to Gato. When the kid here came back to Wave, the people here asked him to be our new feudal lord since he was the hero of the country. He said he did not think he was old and wise enough to do the job, so he asked that the real hero be elected, and he pointed out that he would not have been here had it not been for me, so the people elected me as the new feudal lord and I agreed. Tenten inquired, "Why did you turn down the offer, Naruto? That was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity." Naruto replied, "I have my reason now, you old drunk bastard. What the hell is this Kazunami crap I was just hearing about, and I thought I was going to be a silent partner, not owner?" Tazuna replied, "Well, the inn, as you know, was originally used for Gato's slave prostitution ring, and when you were here during those 3 weeks and took out those men who were still running it, freeing those girls, it just felt like the right payment to give the building to you, so after remodeling it and in hiring a few of the girls who stayed and offered to work there in exchange for room and board, since they didn't have anywhere to go after Gato killed their families, we all felt everyone won. I know you wanted me to be the owner and you just be a silent partner, so that way someone here in Wave could keep an eye on it and run it, and you would never actually touch the money it makes." With a sigh, Naruto glared at Tazuna and said, "And the name?" Tazuna replied, "Oh, that well, there are 2 reasons for that. One, because you are the wind of change for the land of Wave, and you already know the second reason." As he started to massage his temples, Naruto uttered the words, "Must not kill drunk, must not kill drunk." "I assume they are aware of that, Naruto," the Sandame remarked. Naruto replied, "They know part but not all, and drop it, so would you mind setting all these people here in a couple of rooms? I still need to go see someone before it gets dark." He was staring at Tazuna. Tazuna replied, "Sure. After all, it is my duty as the feudal lord to welcome as many diplomats as I can. Please follow me and I will show you to the inn where you can stay." "Oi, what about our money?" inquired Temari. Jiraiya questioned. "Where are you going, Gaki? You know it's not safe for—" After Naruto halted, turned his right arm away from everyone, took out his wallet, counted out the money, and gave it to them all. As he left the group behind and headed toward the town, Naruto said, "Around and don't go there. I've been taking care of myself since I was 4. If anything happens, follow the explosions." Tenten inquired as to, "Where is he going?" Everyone stared at Tazuna as he sighed and said, "He's going to be going to the shrine." Temari responded, "What do you mean? We came all this way so he could go to some shrine?" Tsunami stated, "Forgive my father, the shrine is the name the people of Wave have given to the graves of the 2 missing nins. Naruto team fought to save our country. In the end, they both died to save our country, so we honor them for that. But for Naruto, it's personal. I don't know the exact details since I respect his privacy, but something happened between the boy Haku and Naruto." The Sandame asked, "Naruto mentioned something about losing his innocence on the bridge. Do you know what he was talking about?" Tenten blinked as she recalled what she had read. The reply from Tsunami was, "No, I don't. Sorry." Jiraiya inquired, "Where is this shrine, so if he runs into trouble we can get there quicker?" As the Sandame nodded. Everyone nodded in agreement when Tsunami asked, "Did you notice the cliff about a mile south of the bridge when you were crossing it? It is at the top of the cliff." Jiraiya gave a perverted giggle and started to follow Tazuna after nodding and saying, "Well, let's go get checked in so we can eat and perhaps I can do some research." After following Tazuna for roughly 10 minutes, the group arrived at a 4-story inn with a blue-black sloped roof, 60 windows, and a gold plaque with the name Kazunami Inn on the front. The top half of the inn was painted sky blue, while the bottom half was painted sea blue, with the 2 blending together in the middle. "So Naruto owns this place. Looks nice," Tenten remarked. Glaring at the Sandame, Tazuna remarked, "Yeah, the people of Wave love Naruto even after we learned what he has in him." The Sandame questioned, "Did Naruto tell you about that?" As the group froze. Tazuna replied, "No, he had it bad enough that he doesn't want to tell anyone about it. The ninja you sent here with the adjusted price for the mission asked why would we chose a demon like him as our village hero. When we defended him and asked why he called Naruto a demon, he told us about the Kyuubi being inside him. When Naruto came here, a child asked him and Naruto said it was true and started to leave, but the people here told him we still saw him as our hero and even more of one because he holding Kyuubi from coming here as well. We told that ninja before he left if he ever came back here again we would kill him, so please feel free to send that man back anytime," with a grin on his face. After shaking his head, the Sandiami remarked, "Naive," and considered, "I will check to see who I sent here, and he will be spending time with Ibiki and Enko both." "Don't Naruto already defended your village and said only a few saw him that way? Not everyone. I don't know why he would protect your village by lying, but we won't dishonor him or his sacrifice. Now please follow me," Tazuna said as he entered the reception area. Temari and Tenten were both taken aback to see a girl their own age behind the counter. Recalling that they had heard about the slave prostitution for a brief moment, the two girls exchanged glances. "Hello Isis. How are you today?" said Tazuna. Isis replied, "I am doing well Tazuna-sama, how are you today and who are our honored guest?" Tazuna replied, "This is a few honored guests who are traveling with Naruto." With a joyful expression on her face, Isis exclaimed in a fangirl voice, "Naruto-sama is here, where is he? I want to see him again after he freed me from Gato and his men." Tazuna replied, "He's gone to the shrine Isis, but you can check in his guest." As she turned the registry around for them to sign, Isis said, "Oh of course, please sign the guest list and the rooms will be on the house for the night since you're with Naruto-sama." Tenten asked, "What should we do now, Sandame-sama, since the sign indicates 2 hours until dinner?" as the group signed the list. The Sandame responded, "I guess since you all have your room key you can do what you want until then, but please leave your heat in your pocket so people won't suspect you of being ninja and we are not accused of being idiots like a certain people." It ended with distaste. Tenten shook her head before turning to leave the inn after watching the Sandame and Jiraiya ascend the stairs and turning to see the three Sand siblings staring at one another. After the group dispersed, Naruto strolled around the town for 10 minutes or so until he found the store he was seeking and entered. "Hello, Naruto-sama, what can I do for you today?" said the man behind the counter, looking up. "I was wondering if that order is ready," Naruto uttered. "Yeah, but do you have the money?" the man asked, nodding. The man took out a scroll and asked, "Do you know how to unseal items?" after Naruto took out his wallet and gave him $5,000. "Yeah," Naruto replied. The individual replied, "Good. Then just make sure that scroll is in the middle of where you want to set it because it will unseal 10 seconds after you drop blood on the seal and it will be next to impossible to move again. Got it?" Naruto turned and walked away, nodding and saying, "Thank you." When Naruto reached the graves of Haku and Zabuza, he briefly closed his eyes before turning to face Tenten. As he emerged from the woods, the voice asked, "So it was Zabuza Momochi that Team 7 encountered on your mission here? I thought that was just a rumor." "What are you doing here?" inquired Naruto. Tenten looked at the grave and said, "I'm a weapon master and respect other weapon users. I heard the rumor that Zabuza had died and I wanted to see if the rumors were true, and since I recognize the famous head-chopping cleaver of Zabuza I can see it is true." Frowning, Naruto said, "They were as you can, so if you don't mind please leave." Tenten raised her arms and said, "I also wanted to see the grave of the so-called hero claimed by Naruto Uzumaki on a tree in Konoha who goes by the name Haku Momochi." Looking away from the grave, Naruto's eyes widened and he said, "So you found that, huh?" As she approached, Tenten said, "Want to talk about it?" With an accusing tone, Naruto questioned, "Why are you here really?" Tenten replied, "You're my teammate and you look like you're hurting and I want to help. Why are you so defensive?" Ignoring her question, Naruto took out a scroll, moved to the location of the Zabuza sword and the cross with the Haku mask, and took both from the ground. He then placed the scroll on the spot where they had been before opening it, keeping his hand away from Tenten, and cut his finger with his thumbnail, causing blood to splash onto the seal. After a few seconds, a puff of smoke covered the area where the scroll had been, and a marble platform with a statue that resembled both Haku and Zabuza stood. Naruto looked at both of them sorrowfully as he took Zabuza's sword and placed it in a slot on his back. The sword clicked when it was in position to appear as though he was caring for it, and he took Haku's broken mask. He looked at the mask and said, "I broke this mask that day on the bridge." He then carefully covered half of Haku's face with the broken mask. Tenten sat down on a stone and inquired, "What happened on the bridge? You said you lost your innocence there, but I don't understand what you mean. Why are you going through so much effort for the dead?" Several moments later, Naruto spoke. "Some call that bridge the Bridge of Destiny as well as the Bridge of Heroes. I call that bridge the Bridge of Lost Innocence. On it I faced true evil for the first time in my life, evil that wanted nothing more than to stick its hands through the chest of its enemy and pull the heart out while it still beats, an evil that was so powerful that it could and would have destroyed all in its path, and that evil was in my own heart." While gazing at the grave, Tenten inquired, perplexed, "So you met the Kyuubi somehow?" Naruto shook his head no and said, "No, there on the bridge for a moment the mask hunter Nin, who was Zabuza's partner, had used me as bait to get Sasuke to defend me so he could be taken out, and it worked. Sasuke took what appeared to be a fatal strike to save me. It was the second time that someone took a strike to protect me because I was too weak. Sasuke died in my arms and I felt no pulse on his body. I heard whispers in my head. At first I thought that it was imagination. When I finally learned the truth of why everyone hated me, I thought that everyone was wrong, that the ceiling had went different and the Kyuubi and I were not in the same body. But when I heard the whispering for revenge, I finally had to accept that the Kyuubi was really in me." But on that bridge I learned the truth. In that moment, when I saw Sasuke die for me, something snapped in me. I didn't care what the whispering was. I didn't care if I live or die. All I wanted was to see the hunter nin dead. I gave into it. I was consumed by the power that flowed through me. I wanted more of it. It was like a drug that you can never get enough of, and yet I felt empty inside. I felt like I was floating in my body as I watched my body destroy the hunter nin, destroying the innocence of the boy behind the mask, destroying the future he had, destroying his will to live, and most of all destroying the first person who saw me as me and care if I live or die without pity or duty being behind it. She appeared worried and a little afraid, so Tenten asked, "What happened?" Naruto closed his eyes and stood up and touched the mask on Hiku's face and said, "Like this mask I was broken inside. When I saw Hiku's face I fought myself to regain control of my body. I heard the whispering asking why do I resist now, when it could have been me there dead, and I fought against the whispering. I thought it was Kyuubi I was going against. It wasn't. It was the part of me I always denied to listen to, the part who always wanted to hurt those who hurt me. I realized at that moment that it was me, a part of me that wanted to kill the hunter nin, to rip his heart out. I could not let that part of me that wanted to hurt him win. It was the hardest fight I have ever had. It was at that moment I truly understood what Hiku meant when he said true strength comes from protecting what is precious to you. I faced an ugly truth that day. I faced that I am not the happy-go-lucky idiot everyone thought I was. I am not the cold-blooded killer who wanted to destroy everything, but I could be, since I am someone who is parts of both, and neither realizing that scared me more than learning the Kyuubi was inside of me. I could not let that happen. I would not let that happen. Unfortunately, all of this realizing came at a heavy price. Hiku told me why he was there and why he had nothing left to live for since I destroyed him in battle, making him useless as a tool to Zabuza. He asked me to kill him and stain my hands with his blood. It was to be the last request from my first true friend. I went to fulfill it, but he had one last duty to Zabuza, and at the last moment before my blade pierced his heart he shined away and took a Chidori from Kakashi, killing him to save Zabuza. 10 seconds later it was learned their employer double-crossed them, and in my grief I convinced Zabuza to kill Gato to avenge Hiku. 60 seconds later it was learned Hiku only put Sasuke in a fake death, and all my anger and revenge that caused Hiku his life was for nothing. They call me a hero. If it was not for Hiku I would most likely have lost myself that day on the bridge to my dark side and killed everyone here before I returned to Konoha to do the same. In my anger I vowed on these graves that I would protect what is precious to me, using everything in my power to save them, the Kyuubi, my own skills, even my life. I would never cause those I care for to be hurt ever again, even from myself. Tenten gave Naruto a sorrowful look before stating, "So that is why you put so much effort into honoring their memory, to punish yourself for what happened that day?" Naruto stated, "I am a sacrifice. It is my responsibility to be the one who gets hurt, not be the one who causes the pain." Tenten stood up and attempted to slap him across the face, but Naruto heard Eva yell a warning in his head. He grabbed Tenten by the side and leapt back as she screamed, "What the hell are you doing?" Just as an explosion struck the area where they had been standing, Naruto landed, took a defensive stance in front of her, and said, "Hello Sushi, where's your partner?" as he started to curse himself after seeing where he had landed. Kisame was standing where they had been just before he pulled his sword from the ground, and Tenten turned and paled as she recognized him as one of the 7 swordsmen. She also started to look around, thinking, "Shit, we are trapped on the ledge here. I can tree walk down the side, but I don't know if he can." But Naruto seems to know him and he asked about a partner. Not good. Tenten started to get ready for battle without appearing overt. Kisame got up and replied, well, what do we have here? "I come to pay my respects to my old buddy Zabuza, and I find the Kyuubi and his girlfriend. Tell you what, you come nice and easy," and I let her go. As his eyes darted around in search of Itachi, Naruto said, "And Uchiha Itachi is just going to let her go as well?" Tenten turned pale once more upon realizing that name. As he readied himself for attack, Kisame grinned and remarked, "Itachi is not here yet. He has his Pocky addiction to feed right now near the border of Wind and Fire Country. Imagine his surprise when he finds out I already captured our target." "Did you find him anywhere, Eva?" Naruto asked himself. Eva replied, "No, it appears he is telling the truth and is alone. What should we do?" As he swiftly formulated a plan in his mind, Naruto looked at Tenten and thought, "I don't think she has any weapons. I need to lead him away from her." Naruto was saying, "You think you can beat me, Kisame? You're nothing without Itachi to save you and your sword. I put both you on the ground last time, remember?" Kisame replied, "You surprised me last time, but this time you have nowhere to run to, and your girlfriend here also needs protecting." Tenten replied, "I'm not his girlfriend and I don't need protecting." In front of Tenten, he held his weapons ready while a shuriken appeared in his left hand and a kunai in his right. Naruto said, Tenten, for once, shut up and listen to your superiors. You always go around unarmed unless you are expecting battle. You have been warned before over it. But this time it will cost you. You need to think more like me and seal your weapons in your clothes like I do in my sleeves. I have hundreds of kunais in one sleeve and shurikens in the other, and all I have to do is send chakra into the arms like this. At that moment, Kisame charged at Naruto, who threw both weapons. Kisame halted in time to deflect them, but Naruto had to throw the cloak off his shoulders and let it fall to the ground as he charged forward to meet Kisame. When Kisame saw Naruto charging at him, he slashed his sword at him from the side. Naruto deflected it by raising his right arm and using his left arm to deflect it 3 senbons, then blasted out of it, hitting a tree behind him and exploding as Kisame dodged to the side. He brought an overhead slice down toward Naruto's head, who crossed his arms above his head, creating an X. Kisame said, "Wrong move, kid. Samahata doesn't cut, it shaves." As he pulled toward himself and pulled the blade out of the crossblock Naruto had it in, pieces of metal flew and Naruto leapt back. "Shit," said Naruto as he ducked under Kisame's next swipe. Kisame laughed and said, "Oh, did your little senbon trick fail this time? I saw it enough last time to know you have some kind of senbon launcher on your right arm." Kisame leapt back and started to deflect them as Tenten used that moment to unleash a volley of kunais and shurikens that she had unlocked from Naruto's cloak. He then charged at her, saying, "Should have stayed out of it, girly, now I am going to kill you." As he rushed to stop Kisame, Naruto saw this and said, "Eva, drop the weights." When Kisame noticed this, he abruptly shifted his attack from Tenten, who was now fully on the edge, to Naruto, who was moving at full speed. He sliced Samahata across Naruto's stomach, sending tiny metal fragments flying into the air and making a metal-on-metal sound. "What the hell? First you're not losing any chakra to Samahata, and now every time I attack you there's some sort of armor protecting your body, but I don't see any," Kisame said, blinking as he glanced at Naruto. Naruto looked at Tenten and said, "You okay, Tenten? It sucks for you that I know the secret to chakra metal?" Tenten replied, "Yeah, but I don't have much room to fight and looks like I have the same problem I had with Temari here." With a frown, Naruto began to inquire, "Can you GE?" He started to flash through hand signals when Kisame interrupted, saying, "Sorry kiddies, not this time." A water dragon then materialized and charged in the direction of Naruto and Tenten. When Tenten saw it coming and realized there was no way out, she screamed. Naruto turned, grabbed her, and leapt into the air, carrying her as he flew over the dragon. After landing on a tree far from the edge of the cliff and seating her, he heard Eva say, "Behind you." Turning, Naruto raised both of his arms and stopped Kisame's next blow. Tenten was unable to deflect it before it caught her in the right arm, causing her to scream in agony and shred parts of her shirt, his cloak, and her arm. As he kicked Kisame in the side, causing him to fall from the tree, Naruto clenched his teeth and charged at him, making him leap back. He cried out, "Are you okay, Tenten?" as he was cut again by Kisame. While hastily bandaging her arm to halt the bleeding, Tenten said, "Yeah, but give me a minute if you can." Samahata slammed into the ground in front of Naruto, who leapt back and yelled, "Get out of here and get help." "No," Tenten said, looking up as she tied the final knot, "there won't be enough time for you." With a scowl, Naruto considered, "Status Eva." Eva stated, "Damage to both arms from blocking those attacks has made using the senbon launcher and the thrust cannon currently impossible. Also damage to the stomach prevents prolonged flight. 10 seconds burst at best currently unless you wish to take the chance of damaging the chest plates. Overall internal integrity is still normal." Kisame looked at Tenten, who had unlocked more weapons but was waiting, and saw Naruto standing there. Naruto thought, "No choice. Eva, chakra saber and chakra scythe." Eva responded, "Understood. Reach both hands behind you to each ass cheek, but please do not take any damage at this time. Chakra saber on left, send chakra into each to activate." "Tenten, catch!" Naruto screamed as he spun in the air, throwing the rod in his left hand at Tenten as he brought the right around, sending chakra to his right hand. The rod extended to over 5 feet in length, and a 3-foot-long curved blade of chakra shot out of the top. Naruto leapt into the air once more as he reached his hands behind him to his ass, and 2 4-inch rods shot out of his cheeks. Tenten heard Naruto yell, "Tenten, catch!" She looked up and saw a 4-inch rod approaching her, so she reached out and caught it. Tenten saw Naruto leap into the air as she used that moment to throw the weapons she had unsealed at Kisame, forcing him to dodge. She heard an odd sound and looked up to see Naruto holding a chakra-based scythe as he brought it down toward Kisame, who used Samahata to block it. As she started to unseal additional weapons, Tenten yelled, "What is this?" Kisame knocked the scythe out of Naruto's hand as he was about to respond, causing it to deactivate and return to a 4-inch rod. Then, he struck Naruto in the side with Samahata, sending him into a tree. Naruto moaned as he began to slowly stand up after the blow, but he was sent flying again 4 feet away from Kisame, who shook his hand and remarked, "Damn it, you got armor everywhere." After gradually reaching all 4, Naruto uttered the words, "Chakra, send chakra into it." Tenten hurled a kunai at Kisame as she hurled chakra into the rod in her hand, causing a 3-foot blade to emerge. "Holy shit, it's the Raijin," Kisame exclaimed. Tenten swiftly cut through the 5 water-based sharks that were flying at her when Kisame appeared behind her and struck her in the back of the head, knocking her unconscious just as he was about to kill her with his sword. Naruto kicked him in the side, sending him flying. Kisame scowled and began flashing through hand signs once more. After bouncing back, Kisame struck a tree feet first as he launched himself at Naruto. Naruto then grabbed the chakra saber and began blocking Kisame's strikes, just as he had done with Yugo, forcing him to face the cliff once more as Kisame's strikes grew stronger and faster. Kisame said, "Now I got you, and when I am done with you I will finish off your girl." He attempted to use Samahata to cut Naruto in the middle, but Naruto blocked the blow with his left arm. Naruto then tried to cut Kisame in the side with the chakra saber, but Kisame grabbed his wrist to stop the blow and started to overpower Naruto. He saw Tenten, who had woken up long enough to attack again, faint again as a kunai struck him in the back, causing him to scream and turn his body in case more were approaching. However, Naruto used this distraction to take Kisame by the throat and pull the 2 of them off the cliff. In order to prepare for landing on the water, Kisame released Naruto as they fell. Naruto then used his flying ability to get behind Kisame, quickly putting his arms around him and saying, "Here's a move I saw Lee do." He then started spinning the 2 of them headfirst into the water below. He let go of Kisame as they hit the water, and he heard Eva say, "Be careful, Naruto. We're not totally airtight at the moment. I would say 10 minutes of air before you have to surface due to water intake. Structural integrity down to 60%. Minor stress leak in the stomach section." As he watched Naruto turn right side up, Kisame was underwater, shaking his head and wondering, does he actually intend to fight me underwater? My bloodline allows me to breathe underwater thanks to my gills. Naruto scowled as he saw his power level fall from 70 to 69, 68, 67 after using his chakra saber. After turning it off, he asked himself, "Eva, how do I seal it?" Eva replied, "Just place it on your left ass cheek and I will do the rest." When Naruto followed her instructions, it was turned into a seal. Samahata was taken by Kisame, who tested his swing in the water. He then started swimming rapidly toward Naruto with his feet, who turned and started to go deeper into the water. Kisame trailed behind until they were roughly 200 feet below the surface, at which point Naruto turned and clasped his hands together, causing 2 more Naruto to emerge and divide into 3 groups. Kisame paused, surveyed the 3, and asked himself, "Stupid clones, which one is the real one?" When they were about 60 yards from Kisame, the 3 of them halted. They turned to face him, held both of their hands out to the side, and started to gather chakra as Rasen Shuriken materialized. As all 6 were hurled at him, Kisame's eyes widened and he thought, "Shit." However, they only moved about half as quickly as they usually did underwater, and the 2 cage Bunshin vanished. When Naruto noticed that Kisame had used Samahata to eat the closest 2 Rasen Shurikens, he turned to get the second one. When he noticed that he only had 5% of his chakra left, he looked at his hand and noticed that his cloak shield had fallen. He then activated his thrusters in his feet, which allow him to move underwater and fly, and he charged toward Kisame, who was eating the closest 2 Rasen Shurikens with his back to Naruto. As Kisame turned, Naruto grabbed him as he had done before they hit the water, saying, "Let's go to hell together." Kisame saw the Ironman armor, and the Rasen Shurikens sliced into his side, severing off the arm that held Samahata and hitting Naruto as well, but Naruto armor absorbed the chakra from the attack, giving him just enough to return his cloaking shield. In order to slow the blood loss from the slash in his side and the stump where his arm had been, Kisame, who was screaming in agony, was swimming as quickly as he could to the surface. When Naruto saw this, he briefly laughed before the HUD display died and the armor went dark. "Eva, what's going on?" he asked. "Stand by," Eva said after a moment of waiting and trying to move after feeling his body strike the ocean floor. Naruto said, "Eva," with a hint of fear in his voice. "Stand by please, I am very busy," Eva said. The HUD display appeared again, and Naruto noticed the sonar display was on. He asked, "What's going on, Eva?" as he felt water inside the suit up to his waist and became even more frightened when Eva said, "Beginning power-up sequence." Eva responded, "Sorry about that, but I had to divert resources toward repairing the damage to the stomach section of the suit." The pressure from the water caused the suit to crack. In that area I was able to seal off everything above the damage area to keep the water from going any higher than that, but it took nearly all the remaining power you had. But after I got it into position I was able to release a little Kyuubi chakra into the power cell, and currently we have 15% power. I would suggest we get out of here as soon as possible. But what about the Samahata? I don't want Kisame to return and get it, Naruto pondered with a frown. Eva took a moment to think and replied, based on where we ended up and where it began to fall, I would say it is somewhere within 100 square yards of our current location, but I cannot tell you in which direction. Can you give me inferred as well as sonar? Naruto asked, glancing at the sonar display. Perhaps the body heat from Kisame arm can help us find it. That one. The one that is getting cooler quick. Do you have a lock on it? Asked Naruto after noticing a change in the HUD display and noticing multiple heat sources beneath the water. He then looked in a circle. Yes. Eva replied. Then Naruto started to approach the heat source slowly, saying, alright, let's check that out. A few minutes later, they came upon a bed of coral. Naruto saw Kisame's arm but failed to spot Samahata, so he grabbed it as he watched his chakra level gradually decline. He thought, damn it, do you think if we come back when we get more chakra you could still find that area where it might be? Eva replied, yes, though every minute the range gets bigger. With a sigh, Naruto started to move toward the surface, saying, fine, it's a lost item then. He felt lighter as soon as he reached the surface because all of the armor was sealed, and he asked himself, Eva, what's going on? After realizing that Kisame was nowhere to be seen. Eva responded, I need to work on repairing the damage to the suit, and it would look weird with the cracks in your cloths where the damage was, would it not? As he swam toward the wall and used chakra to ascend to the top, Naruto scowled and thought, okay, just let me know when it is ready again. As he reached the summit, he noticed that Tenten was still unconscious. He scowled and rushed to her, tapping her arm and saying, Tenten, can you hear me? Wake up. Tenten moaned as she swung around a bit, and Naruto thought, well, at least she's alive. He gasped as he surveyed the clearing, and he shed a tear when he noticed that Haku's mask was totally broken. After that, he stood up and gathered all the weapons. He blinked when he discovered the chakra scythe and placed it in his vest pocket, thinking, well, I will have to wait until the suit is repaired to reseal it. After that, he strolled back to Tenten's location, picked her up, and started carrying her back to the city. After a short while, Gaara was in the middle of the road, holding his head while wearing a crazy expression and yelling, no, make it go away, please stop. Kankuro said, funny, before when he was like this I would be running and hiding, while sitting on a bench by the side of the road. Sweating, Tamari slapped her head and uttered, I can't believe him, how embarrassing. Hey, Kankuro said, you can't blame him. I will have another please, Gaara said as he straightened up and took out some of the money Naruto had given him. When he saw Naruto walking down the street with Tenten in his arms, unconscious, a man said, look kid, I know you like the slushies, but if you keep drinking them that fast the brain freeze you're feeling is going to get worse. Now what, Naruto-sama, is everything alright? When Gaara, Kankuro, and Tamari turned, Tamari noticed Naruto's cloak on Tenten and remarked, snickering, looks like she was easy after all. All three of them blinked as Naruto glared at her and asked, do any of you three know any medical jutsu? The first to recover was Kankuro, who was giggling for a moment and inquired, what's wrong, she like it rough? After kicking him in the nuts and causing him to scream in agony, Naruto glared and said, now, do you know any medical jutsu? Before he collapsed to the ground, clutching himself. In response, Gaara said, no, we don't. Naruto, why? Get your siblings and follow me, we were attacked by a missing nin, Naruto said as he turned around. At this point, all three became very serious as one can be while maintaining composure, but Tamari questioned, who was it and what happened? Tenten suddenly changed Naruto's hold, and Kisame's arm on her stomach dropped to the ground, causing the slushy vendor to go pale and a woman nearby to scream. As he started to make his way to the inn, Naruto remarked, he got away but not without us getting a piece of him, pick that up for me will you, I need to get Tenten some help. Gaara picked it up with his sand and started to follow Naruto, saying, come. Did you see that arm? It was blue. Who the hell has blue skin? Kankuro scowled. Did you notice anything wrong with that picture though? Why is he looking unharmed besides having wet cloths? Tamari said, giving her brother a fierce look. After giving it some thought, Kankuro said, hey, you're right. As she ran to catch up to Naruto and Gaara, Tamari rolled her eyes and said, I'm always right, it comes with being a woman, come on. Naruto asked, hey, what room is the Sandame in? After spotting the girl behind the desk when they arrived at the inn. Before passing out, the girl looked up, widened her eyes, and stammered, "Naruto-sama. For the love of God, can I get some fucking help here?" yelled Naruto. When he came down the stairs, Sandium's voice said, "And what would you need help with, Naruto?" However, he narrowed his eyes and hurried to Naruto's side when he noticed the blood on Tenten's clothing. He then said, "Hurry, put her down and tell me what happened." Naruto put her down and stated, "We were attacked by Kisame Hoshigaki, Itachi partner, but luckily Itachi wasn't there. He got her in the arm with Samahada and the back of the head with his fist." He examined Sandame's head and arm, noting that her hands were already glowing green, and he inquired, "Anywhere else?" Naruto replied, "Not that I saw. I took most of the damage, but my gift took a beating. She has a minor concussion and will most likely be out for the rest of the day, but her arm will take about 3 or 4 days to heal the rest of the way." The Sandame scowled. However, he sighed after a few moments and glanced at Tenten again before glancing at Naruto. Grabbing Kisami's arm out of the Gaara sand, Naruto remarked, "Just a piece here and there." The Sandames asked, their eyes wide, "Is he still alive?" Naruto replied, "Unfortunately yes. After Tenten was taken out, I forced us off the cliff into the ocean to save her from more damage, and I took his arm while we were underwater and he fled to keep from dying of blood loss. I plan to go back there after I rest a little bit and see if I can find Samahada." The Sandame replied, "Not without Jiraiya. You're not. We can't let Akatsuki get their hands on you or Gaara." With a narrowed gaze, Temari questioned, "Who is Akatsuki and why would they be after Gaara?" When the Sand siblings heard Sasori's name, they went wide-eyed. Jiraiya's voice said, "Akatsuki is a group of S-class missing nin. They plan to capture and extract each of the Biju. For what purpose I don't know. I only know of 4 members: Kisame Hoshigaki, Itachi Uchiha, Sasori of the Red Sand, and former member Orochimaru." In an attempt to gather as much information as possible, Gaara stated, "And they will be coming after Naruto and I." As he threw Naruto a scroll, Jiraiya nodded and remarked, "It is one of the reasons why Naruto and I are on this trip, to return you home to inform Suna about this threat and yourself." "What's in the scroll?" inquired Naruto. Jiraiya replied, "It's the instruction for Kachiyose no Jutsu as well as a few toads who you need to know for when you can summon them. Now how much did Kisame see and know now?" Naruto took a breath and said, "Rasen Shuriken. He already knew about my Senbon trick, and because of the amount of times Samahada hit me, he most likely knows about my gift now along with both my chakra weapons, though they were not much help." With a scowl, Jiraiya remarked, "That's most of your arsenal, kid." Frowsing, Naruto remarked, "I know, but I couldn't help it. Kisame was too strong for me." Eyeing Naruto, Temari questioned, "What is this gift you keep talking about? Is it Kyuubi?" "Nothing. Look, can you take Tenten to your room, Temari?" Naruto became a little flushed and said, "I don't think she would want any of us to help her if she needs it. Just because I didn't see any other injuries doesn't mean she didn't take them, and I don't want to cause any problems." "I get it. Geese, you want me to check her out and watch her since I am the only other female in the group. Grab Panda Bear and follow me to my room," Temari said. Blinking at him before turning to face the others, she started to ascend the stairs. Temari opened a door on the 3rd floor, and Naruto followed her inside. She gestured for the bed, and he placed Tenten on the room's second twin bed. Temari pushed him out of the room and slammed the door shut, and he heard it lock. "Now get out so I can make sure she doesn't have any other injuries, you pervert." After examining the blood in the wound, Temari scowled and said, "Well, Panda, let's get you cleaned up." She then went to Tenten's bag and took out multiple scrolls, thinking, "So she seals everything, not just weapons." She then put the scrolls back and proceeded to Tenten, taking off her clothes, getting some of her own supplies, and cleaning some of the blood and dirt off of her, leaving Tenten only in her panties and her chest bindings. Temari was thinking, "Well, her body's not bad, shows she is a real kunoichi instead of one of those wannabe fangirls. I can respect that, though we are going to have a talk when she wakes up. I need to know what happened with this Akatsuki." The Sandame said, "All right, Naruto, I want to hear everything that happened," as he entered his room after dropping Tenten off, and Temari's Jiraiya was also present. With a sigh, Naruto started to describe his conversation with Tenten without revealing the content of their exchange. He then went on to describe the fight with Kisame, and Eva displayed a hologram of it. The Sandame remained quiet for a few minutes after it was over and at last stated, "Naruto, while I am pleased that you protected your teammate and did what was necessary, I don't like the fact you threw caution to the wind and endangered yourself and her by following him into the water. You can fly. Even if it was damage, you still had partial ability to fly, so you should have, after knocking him off the cliff and getting free, flew back up and got her to safety, not use Lee Rendon to slam him into the water trying to take him out." Naruto looked down with a frown and said, But I am proud of you, Naruto. You showed in the battle you did have good chunin qualities by ordering her to leave as well as rearming her even though she was armed. I notice you were trying to use the scythe as you would a sword. That won't work because they're two different styles. Naruto replied, I know I got some books on staffs, scythes and swords to read, but I haven't had a chance to yet. The third replied, well, I could write down for you the basic katas for the staff if you want. There are only 10 of them and they would help you with the scythe. Wide-eyed, Naruto exclaimed, really, that would be great, Gigi. The third laughed and replied, well, get some rest, Naruto, and I will have that for you in the morning. Were you able to get everything taken care of that you needed to? After a moment of fading his smile, Naruto said, yeah, though the fighting damaged it a little. Recalling Rain Country and the 3 orphans he taught there, Jiraiya remarked, it happens, kid, there is always collateral damage from fighting, especially to the innocent. I guess it's just that was the only thing I had left of Haku and now it's gone, scowled Naruto. The Sandaime touched Naruto's heart, and here, before touching his head, saying, you're wrong, Naruto, you still have something of this Haku person in here. Naruto gave a wink and said, if you don't mind, I'm not feeling too well anymore and need some rest today. Been emotional for me as well as physically tiring. The Sandaime stood up and walked away with Jiraiya, saying, of course Naruto, let's go. Jiraiya. Following their departure, Eva said, you know I am proud of you. You protected Tenten and showed Akatsuki you were not just going to sit back and let them get you. Naruto replied, yeah, but now they know what I can do and will be ready next time. I need to get stronger. Tenten could have died today. I can't let that happen to my teammates, especially one who accepts me for me and not Kyuubi. Eva responded, you might have to tell her about me, Naruto. She did see you take damage a lot and not get hurt. Naruto gave a nod and said, well, it's time to get to training Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Alright. I want 7 of you to read all those books and the scroll on summoning while the other 3 go work on chakra control until you're almost out of chakra and dispel the ones who are reading. If you finish the book or scroll, trade with the others and read it again. I want all theme memorized. I am going to go get something to eat with Inari, Tsunami, and Tazuna. When he jumped out of the window. Jiraiya, he's exhausted mentally. I didn't realize before since he always had on his mask, but he's tired. I want you to see if you can help him, the Sandaime said after Jiraiya, and he returned to the Sandaime room. Jiraiya looked at him and replied, I know Weasel just informed me that they're planning to go into hiding for the next 3 years, but they caught 3 already. The kid did a number on Kisame, though besides the severed arm he also got a slice in the side, an inch lower, and it would have taken out his kidney from what I saw. Will he survive? The third person asked. Jiraiya replied, unfortunately yes, and the kid can forget going to get Samahada. I saw it crawling back to Kisame using its blades to move itself. The third sighed and replied, when you're not training him yourself, Jiraiya, I want you to give him scrolls to study off of. We have to get him stronger fast or he won't survive. Weasel is only 5th strongest in that group from his reports. I understand. I guess I better go plan what to teach him, Jiraiya sighed. The Sandaime sighed and got ready to order room service after the third nod, and Jiraiya left the room. When she woke up the following morning, Tenten was in a strange bed in a room she had never seen before. She sat up, wincing, and Temari said, take it easy, Panda, you got a little roughed up yesterday. Tenten scowled as she saw Temari putting her hair up. Tenten inquired, what happened after I passed out, and where is Naruto? Is he alright? Yeah, he is fine, though I was surprised at how long he could fuck you while you slept, Temari said as she turned around. Tenten's eyes widened as she gazed down at her body, and Temari started laughing. Tenten was momentarily alarmed when she noticed that she was wearing only her panties and her bindings, but she glared at Temari and said, screw you, dessert rat, that's not funny. Temari wiped the corners of her eyes with fake tears and remarked, aw damn, I needed that. So what really happened out there? You come back looking like you took on an entire team by yourself and all Naruto came back with was wet cloths. Then Tenten scowled and said, and why the hell should I tell you anything? Temari's expression changed from one of joking to serious as she grinned and said, because I had to take care of you, or would you want one of the guys to check you for wounds? Also, Hokage-sama said the guy who attacked you were after Naruto and my brother, and I need to know everything I can about them so I could protect him. After blinking, Tenten inquired, where are my clothes? As she picked up her bag and repacked her belongings, Temari remarked, they're in the bathroom. I washed the blood off of them for you. Tenten jumped out of bed right away, grabbed her bag, and ran to the bathroom to change. She asked, well, as she walked out after getting dressed and noticed Temari sitting on the bed. As she started to explain what had happened with Kisame, Tenten scowled and said, fine, so you're saying he has some sort of armor on that kept him from being hurt by Kisame's sword? Temari asked after she finished. Tenten replied, yeah, but I didn't see the armor even though I felt it and heard the sound of metal hitting metal. Well, we better go downstairs before they come looking for us, Temari said, nodding when you're ready. We're supposed to depart, Panda-chan. Stop being a helpless damsel in distress and get your act together. It's really fangirlish. She hurried away, ignoring Tenten's yell of rage, saying, no wonder I kicked your ass. Tenten saw Tamari and her brothers standing in the lobby. She also noticed Naruto standing next to Jiraiya, and the Sandame. Tenten leapt over the rail and roared toward Tamari. Tamari smirked as she saw this, snatched Tenten's arm, flipped her over, slammed her against a coffee table, broke it, twisted Tenten's arm, and yelled, bad girl, take a seat. When he heard Tenten roar, Naruto acted swiftly and ran over as Tamari said, sit. He grabbed her from behind and commanded, stop it, both you. Tenten got up and jumped at Tamari once more, but Gaara's sand wrapped around her and he said, Naruto asked you both to stop, now pay attention to him. Following a few moments in which both girls attempted to escape Jiraiya, he approached and said, if you both can't get along then I have no choice but to force you to. He then produced a pair of handcuffs and locked Tamari and Tenten's hands together, causing them to glare at one another and at him before they stopped struggling and were released by Gaara and Naruto. Now that you both have calmed down, would you please explain why you attacked her, Tenten? The third sighed as he approached Tenten and looked at her. Tenten gave Tamari a series of glares before stating, it's personal, sir. What about you, Tamari? Do you have anything to say? The third one asked, scowling as he glanced at Tamari. No, Tamari said with a smirk, I believe Panda here understands her role. Tenten screamed and attempted to attack Tamari, but Naruto intervened, saying, stop it, and then releasing some ki, which caused both girls to freeze. Do you both think you can act like Kunoichi instead of a couple of fangirls fighting over a guy? Naruto asked, glaring at them both after they had stopped fighting. His response was a pair of lumps on his skull, and both girls blinked, looked at him, and essentially thought the same thing. Did he just insult me by calling me a fangirl? As he stepped back and rubbed his head, Naruto muttered to himself, now that you both have calmed down, are you all ready to leave? The third person shook his head. I need to go grab my scrolls from my room, Tenten said. Very well, but no fighting either of you, the third said, glancing at the two girls' private property has already been destroyed by you all. Make sure you both pay Naruto here for the damage to his inn and ask the new Hokage and Kazekage to give you both solo D-rank missions for a year if you can't get along for the remainder of the trip. At this point, both girls went pale and simultaneously said, we won't fight. They both went upstairs to retrieve Tenten's scrolls after the third nod. So how long do you think it will take before they start fighting again? The third person asked after Naruto sighed. Kankuro added, knowing Tamari, I would say they will be at it again before we cross the bridge. In Gaara's words, tomorrow. As long as they don't destroy anything else, Naruto stated. I don't care, he said, take this and replace the table they broke please, as he moved to the desk where another girl was seated. I don't want to cause anyone here any trouble after everything they went through already. Of course Naruto-sama though, may I ask, when will you be back again? Said the girl behind the counter. With a frown, Naruto uttered, I don't know, why? With her face flushed, the girl said, because I was wondering if you would like to go out on a date the next time you came through. I don't know when or if I will ever be back again, and I don't want you to miss a chance at happiness waiting on a possible friendly date that may never come. Naruto said as Jiraiya grinned and the third closed his eyes and turned away. You can ask me then, and we can proceed if I do return and you're not with someone. Deal? The girl gave a brief scowl before beaming broadly and saying, deal Naruto-sama. When Naruto released a breath he was holding without realizing it, he turned to face the others and saw Tamari and Tenten staring at him. What? He asked. The third said, I think it's time for us to go now, Naruto, and Jiraiya laughed. We wish to avoid further postponement. Slowly nodding, Naruto said, right, let's go, and left through the door. After crossing the Great Naruto Bridge, the group traveled in silence until they returned to the Fire Country. Tenten and Tamari were still handcuffed together as they leapt through the trees. Jiraiya asked Naruto, so how many have you gotten on the Rasen Shuriken, as they were traveling? After giving him a quick look, Naruto said, 7. Have you looked at the scroll for summoning I made you? Jiraiya asked, nodding. Indeed, Naruto stated, last night, I had a clone read it while I had a few others read the books I have on scythes, staffs, and swords. However, I want to make sure I got all the information from them, so I'm going to have them read them again. The third said, that reminds me of Naruto, and Jiraiya nodded. I will give you the scroll I wrote for you using the kata when we take a break at noon. Tenten asked, what about me? As Naruto nodded, do I really have anything to work on, or what? I haven't forgotten you, Tenten, the third person said, Interrupting her, I want you to work on a scroll that contains 10 Suiden Jutsu. Guy informed me that water was his elemental affinity. When I asked him what it was, I added 4 Doten Jutsu for you to try, which will help you in the event that you ever encounter a wind element again. Even though I know you won't be able to practice them much once we get to Suna because water is so scarce there. Tamari smirked as Tenten glared at her after she nodded and jumped harder on the subsequent leap, jerking Tenten's arm and almost causing her to miss the next branch. Jiraiya handed Naruto a small piece of paper and said, "That reminds me, Naruto, here, channel chakra into this so I can see what affinity you have." Jiraiya raised an eyebrow and remarked, "It appears you're a wind element with a small secondary element for water as well." Naruto took the paper and gave it a quick glance before sending a tiny amount of chakra into the card, which caused it to split down the middle and then get slightly wet on the outside. As she gave Naruto a closer look, Tamari remarked, "He has a wind affinity." "That is rare, Naruto," the Sandaime remarked. "Apart from my son Asuma, the Yondaime was the only other wind affinity I can recall having in Konoha over the years." Tenten said, "That reminds me," as she turned to face Naruto, "you mentioned that your mother, Kushina Uzumaki, had died, but who was your father, Naruto?" The Sandaime asked, "Why did you form those clones just now, Naruto?" As he eyed all the clones that were now walking up and down the trees while balancing leaves on their hands, Naruto looked at her, put his hands together, and said, "Taju Kage Bunshin no Jutsu." The group stopped as the entire area behind where they were jumping was suddenly covered in smoke. "This is Thursday," Naruto stated, "since we are traveling to the desert and, from what I've been told, there aren't any trees there. Shizune advised me to establish a routine of performing chakra control exercises multiple times per week. I must begin my practice right away." Snorting, Tamari remarked, "It's not like we don't have our own chakra control exercises." "I suppose," said Naruto, "but I don't know them, do I?" With a resentful expression on his face, he said, "I only know the ones Konoha knows." The third looked at this with a scowl and said, "Naruto, while it is a good idea to keep up your practice with your chakra control, doing it while on a mission, especially while tree hopping, is not a smart idea." The third blinked and thought, why would he wink at me like it was a joke? His eyes widened as he looked at Tenten, thinking, "I see you didn't want to reveal who your father is, so you did something to cause a scene." He gave Naruto a stern look, and Naruto replied, "All right, I get it." He then cancelled the jutsu, and almost 500 Kage Bunshin vanished in smoke. Kankuro replied, "Wasn't that a waste of chakra forming all of those Kage Bunshin?" Naruto replied, "Not really. When you think about the bonus of Kage Bunshin, anything they learn before they are dispelled or destroyed is transferred back to the user, so I just got over 2 hours worth of chakra control exercise in less than 5 minutes. Every genin widened their eyes at that, and Gaara, after giving it some thought, turned to face Naruto and asked, "Do you think I could learn that jutsu, Naruto?" The Sandaime said, "I am afraid that is not," as Naruto blinked and glanced at Gaara, thinking rapidly. "Gigi," Naruto interrupted, grabbing the third's attention. He went on, "Maybe that might not be a bad idea. I understand what you mean when you say that jutsu is prohibited, and I agree that teaching someone that jutsu is not a good idea, but there are a few exceptions in this situation that you might want to consider. Akatsuki is the first. I am not their only target, but I was fortunate both times I have faced them so far because they underestimated me. I will need to get stronger more quickly. The second is that you yourself stated that no one in Konoha, aside from your son, is capable of using wind elements. Perhaps Gaara could help me with my wind element if I teach him the Kage Bunshin jutsu so he can practice and become stronger to prevent them from getting him in this manner. We can both become more powerful and proficient ninja for our village and prevent Akatsuki from capturing us." As Jiraiya stated, "He does have a point, sensei." The third person paused, especially since that is approaching. The third scowled as he surveyed the group before turning to face Gaara and stating, "I'll think about it, but we have to move forward when we get to Suna. I'll tell you what I think, but you can't teach it to him until I give Naruto my okay." "I agree." With a scowl, Naruto replied, "Yes Gigi, I got you." The Sandaime smirked to himself when Tenten asked, "So, are you going to answer my question now, or are you going to try and divert attention again, Naruto?" Jiraiya and the Sandaime were held accountable when Naruto remarked, "You say something, Tenten." After Tenten gave Naruto a fierce look, Tamari remarked, "Is Foxy shy about his daddy?" Eva said, "Don't lose your cool, Naruto." Just as he was about to speak, "All they're doing is playing with you to see what buttons you need to push." "Where have you been, Eva?" thought Naruto. "I have been working on the armor repairs," Eva stated. "Although it is at 70%, the repair will take some time to complete." "All right," Naruto thought, "since you usually communicate with me before this, I was concerned that something might have happened to you." As everyone watched Naruto's face change multiple times, Tenten snapped her fingers in front of his face and exclaimed, "Naruto, Naruto, hey." After blinking multiple times and realizing that everyone was staring at him, Naruto questioned, "What? You briefly lost your train of thought." Tamari remarked, "You never responded when Panda here called out to you multiple times. Did my remark about your shyness around your father really bother you?" "No," Naruto replied, "it's just that I was thinking about some recent events. I apologize." "You know you're terrible at lying." Kankuro said, "You seem to be having a conversation. After all, you were conversing with Kyuubi, were you not?" Naruto's eyes widened as he glanced at Jiraiya and the Sandaime. He started to fidget until he heard Eva in his mind, at which point he inhaled deeply and responded, "No." The decayed body of one of Gato's men, which Zabuza killed before he died, washed up when I forgot I had left a Kage Bunshin back in Wave to search for Kisame's sword Samahata. It was disgusting to have some fish eat at it, and I wasn't prepared for that memory regarding my dad. I'm not shy about my father's identity. All I can say is that I'm not sure how I feel about my father. He was described to me as a simple man who lived a simple life and passed away on the same day that I was born." He shrugged his shoulders and said, "There's nothing significant to report about him." After witnessing Naruto's deception, Jiraiya remarked, "Well, I guess we should get going again, right, sensei?" "Yes," the third replied, "I concur." Jiraiya, I also realized what Naruto had done. You need to control your facial expressions better when talking to your tenants in the future if you don't want to answer certain questions, the third branch said quietly as he pulled up beside Naruto. Naruto smiled softly and started to hope for the next set of branches if at all possible. It might be wise to try to keep quiet for the remainder of the journey. With a nod, Naruto said, "Right?" The third person inquired, "How is your gift?" "Repairs are only at 70%, Naruto said, looking around to make sure no one was nearby to hear. "Repairing it will take some time." The third nods and leaps in front of Naruto, speeding up and demonstrating to the Genins and Chunin why he is a Kage. Jiraiya keeps up with him, forcing everyone in the group to stop talking as they must focus more to keep up. At noon, when the group had halted, the Sandaime approached Naruto, gave him a scroll, and said, "This is the Kata I promised you." He then approached Tenten and gave her a scroll, saying, "And this is the scroll I promised you." As he approached and opened a sandwich, he said, "Study them when we can, but get you something to eat right now because we leave in 20 minutes. When Jiraiya asked, "Why don't you eat, Naruto?" everyone looked up at him as Naruto started to memorize the scroll, and Tenten, who was sitting next to Tamari, who was chatting with her brothers, was reading hers after having already eaten. Ignoring his growling stomach, Naruto rolled up the scroll and walked into the woods, scowling and declaring, "I'm not hungry." After squinting his eyes at the third, who had done the same, Jiraiya started to follow Naruto into the woods. About 100 yards from the others, he discovered Naruto and inquired, "So what's up?" As Naruto put it, "Nothing." "Why?" Jiraiya replied, "Oh, just the fact you didn't eat anything until we got to Wave Country and you're not eating now." "It's nothing." "Okay," said Naruto with a frown. "I'll just grab myself something to eat tonight since I forgot to pack anything." Knowing that Jiraiya won't let the topic fall until he responds, he said, "It's no big deal." "Baka," Jiraiya said, scowling as she slapped Naruto on the back of the head. "You should always bring food for missions, don't you know that?" Eva came up and said, "He tried Jiraiya but the stores threw him out," before vanishing as Naruto glared at him. As she walked away, Jiraiya scowled and turned to face Naruto, who was staring at the ground. Jiraiya then took out a scroll, opened some beef strips, and said, "Here, eat up, Naruto, and let me know if you run into that issue again. As your godfather, I wish to assist you." As Naruto watched Jiraiya leave and return to the group, he scowled and thought, "Only now you do." Eva said to Naruto after he left, "You know that he does care, as do others." With a sigh, Naruto said, "I know, but right now, I don't feel well. There's a problem with me for some reason. I can't put my mask back on around the others, which irritates me because I don't like that people are seeing the true me." "But isn't that precisely what you wanted people to do?" Eva asked. "Not Kyuubi, but to see you for who you are." "I guess you're right, but I can't help but want to be defensive," Naruto thought as he started to eat. "Despite my acceptance of his explanation for his absence, I still feel deceived because he is my godfather." "Just like you do with the Sandaime, right?" Eva asked. "He knew who your parents were, after all, and he refused to tell you anything until you made him." "Yeah," Naruto thought, frowning. "You're probably right. What should I do?" "Accept it and go on," Eva said with a laugh. "Even though you are only human, I believe you will have to tell me sooner rather than later." Naruto asked himself, "What do you mean?" Eva stated, I used my sonar ability to listen in on the girls last night after we got back and this morning to make sure your teammate was okay for you so you wouldn't worry, and I overheard Tamari questioning Tenten about the battle and Tenten had to tell her about the armor. After finishing his meal, Naruto sighed and had the thought, I guess then I don't have a choice but to tell her, but I won't until she asks me about it. Good, Eva said, although you are treating her in the same way, you feel deceived by Sandame and Jiraiya. Trust her, and I guarantee that you two will get along and she won't feel deceived like you do right now. All right, Naruto thought, but not until she asks me or until you're completely well. What's the situation? 75%, Eva said. The Sandame asked, is everyone ready? After Naruto nods, gets back up, and approaches the group. Tamari inquired, can he release Panda and me because I need to use the restroom and I don't want an audience? Are you both going to behave now? Jiraiya asked after glancing at them both. Both girls nod, and after he uncuffed them, they fled into the woods in opposite directions, causing everyone to blink. Kankuro remarked, I guess they both needed to go bad. Shaking his head, Naruto questioned, so, how long till we get there, Gigi? The third person replied, actually I would say we should reach the border tomorrow morning around 9, and then if everyone is ready for desert travel we can be in Suna by 8 tomorrow night. Kankuro continued, you honestly expect those two to travel by desert standards in the heat of the day? It's their funeral. Can it, makeup boy? Said Naruto. Since Tenten and I are two of the greatest that Konoha has to offer, we can both make it. The fact that she attracted your sister, who was her inherent weakness, was just plain bad luck. She would have made a pincushion of you two if she had been up against anyone else. Tenten said, "Ah, that's sweet," and Naruto tensed as he felt two arms encircle him from behind. Naruto felt a kunai at his throat and heard her say, "I don't care what kind of armor you were wearing, but you ever tell me to shut up like you did when we faced Sushi? No one had ever praised my skills like that before, but I'll kick your ass so hard that the fox will try to pull my foot off it for the rest of your life." At this point, Naruto actually swallowed hard and said, "Fine. Good, now what is that armor?" Tenten remarked. "I was also wondering about that," Tamari said. Panda claimed to have heard and felt it even though she was unable to see it, so what is the matter? The Sandame and Jiraiya both had a chuckle on their faces as Naruto said, "It's personal and I rather not say right now, at least until it is fully repaired, but please don't tell anyone else about it because it pretty much as much a part of me as Gara Sand is for him." "All right," Tamari said, "but I'd like to know too, Foxy." "All right," said Tenten. She leaned forward and whispered, Eva, in his ear, "I'll give you some time, and I have another thing I want to ask about." Naruto thought, "How the hell does she know about you?" and quickly covered his wide eyes. He received nothing but silence. Standing back, Naruto uttered the words, "I think it's time to go, right, Gigi?" Jiraiya replied, "Yeah, it is, so let's go, and I told you that it was only a matter of time before someone found out about that." After the Sandame had already taken off, Naruto yelled, "Whatever, Ero Sanin," and leapt into the trees. As he caught up to the group, which was now traveling at top speed for everyone except Jiraiya and the Sandame, Jiraiya complained and said, "No respect." Naruto was lying on his bed when the door to his room knocked as the group arrived at a border town close to the Wind and Fire Country border and checked into a hotel. Recalling his previous encounter with a visitor in his room, Naruto scowled as he stood up and pointed his right arm toward the door, preparing to fire a rocket senbon at it. He asked, "Who is it?" From the other side, he heard Tenten say, "It's me, Naruto. I came to discuss some things with you. Can I enter?" "Hold on a minute." Naruto scowled and bit his lip before approaching the door and opening it. Tenten was standing there when he said, "Come on in." After Tenten entered, he shut the door, went back, and sat down in a chair before asking, "So what do you want to talk about?" "I want to know what is going on really," Tenten said, glancing around the room before turning to face Naruto. "What's up with the armor, and how are you related to Eva?" It was Naruto who said, "Never heard of her." Smirking, Tenten remarked, "I never said Eva was a female." "How do you know about her?" Scowled Naruto. Tenten said, "Not going to happen until I get answers." With her arms crossed, "What precisely is that armor and who is Eva?" "Then, it seems like we have nothing to discuss," Naruto remarked as he gestured toward the door. He said, "Don't let the door hit you on the way out." "Eva was designed by my mother and father," Tenten said, giving him a fierce look. After a moment, Naruto's eyes widened, and he sat down and said, "I see, so that is why your dad has been so kind to me. Look, Tenten, I know you don't know me very well, but please listen to me on this. Never mention the name Eva or that your parents were involved in any way to me, because if you do that, it could earn you and your dad a lot of trouble from the Hokage and my enemies, among others." He looked at her and said, "Gigi might even order your dad's death over this." Tenten stated, "I need to know what my dad did to you and what's going on." but he said the same thing when I first met Eva. Please let me know because my family is involved. Eva, what does she mean you met her? Was Naruto's thought. I'm sorry, Naruto-kun, but when you first entered her family's weapon shop, there was something I felt I had to do, Eva said as the room briefly shimmered. By using heat recognition, I was able to identify her father as one of my creators. After hearing Tenten's account of her mother's death, I reasoned that since my creator had done so much for you, you wouldn't mind if I also gave Tenten a small gift by allowing her to at least meet a portion of her mother once. I apologize for disclosing myself without authorization. I see. Why didn't you tell me, Eva? Naruto sighed. Eva replied, because I knew you would not want to reveal who it was who gave me to you even on accident, so I figured since my creator would never tell who he was, he would have Tenten also remain silent on it so everyone would be safe. Tenten inquired, Eva, what are you exactly? I am aware that you are a hologram, but what precisely did my parents create that my father refers to as his sins? Eva glanced at Naruto after he bit his lip, and he said, Tenten, I believe you should honor your father's wishes on this. Additionally, your father is a good man. According to Tenten, like your father the Yondaime. With wide eyes, Naruto questioned, what? I am not stupid, Tenten said, giving him a glare. Your father must have given you your hair and eyes because, according to my father, your mother had green eyes and a red head. Then, when you mentioned that the Yondaime used you to seal the Kyuubi, I wondered why he would choose you out of all people. I then considered the Yondaime's true appearance based on the picture I saw in the Hokage office and the academy textbook, and you were exactly like him with whiskers. So stop trying to blow smoke up my ass and just answer the damn question. As he looked down at Tenten, Naruto snorted and started laughing, saying, Shikamaru was right. Women are troublesome. I guess you're not going to let this go, are you? Naruto sighed and said, fine Eva, seal all armor. After Tenten shook her head no. Tenten gasped when she saw the core, and Naruto said, what you are looking at now is Eva. Eva nods, and Naruto's body slightly changes. Tenten slowly stood up, approached, touched the core, and questioned, why did my dad put this in you? After the semifinals were over, I went to the hospital to find Kakashi because I heard he went to check on Sasuke at the hospital, Naruto said. Closing his eyes, Tenten covered her mouth as Kakashi essentially told her that only Sasuke was worth his time training and that I wasn't. After that, I snap, Naruto said, glancing at her. I began to rant that I was going to kick Sasuke's ass and defeat everyone in the finals, even if it meant striking a deal with the Kyuubi itself. Your dad grabbed me out of the hallway, changed his appearance with a henge, and asked me if I was truly prepared to make a bargain with a demon in order to avoid being perceived as worthless, as Kakashi had made me appear. I said yes, and he asked if I was willing to risk dying if I didn't succeed. I said yes, and he gave me a card with the address of the house I had inquired about and instructed me to meet at a specific time. After I did, he led me to the basement and explained how the armor was made and how he and your mother arrived in Konoha. Eva was a part of me when I woke up, even though I don't know why I passed out. The remainder of the month was spent learning how to use the suit and training, as well as coming to terms with the fact that my own father had sealed Kyuubi in me and that the man I considered to be my grandfather had lied to me about both my parents and Kyuubi throughout my life. All those years of being deceived and betrayed by people I believed I could trust hurt, but thanks to Eva, I was able to come to terms with it, and my life has never been better because of her. She probably would have prevented me from defeating Gaara, who would have destroyed the village and, if what Ero Sanin told me is accurate, killed Gigi Tenten. Your father is a good man. And I think your mother was as well. I don't regret anything that happened to me because I probably would have turned into Gaara if your dad hadn't done what he did. But I don't understand, Tenten said, biting her lip as she turned to face Eva. I mean, I can see why the Hokage would be upset with my dad for doing something that, if it had gone wrong, could have killed you, but why does my dad consider the armor and Eva to be his sin? And why are you attempting to hide it from me? Eva stated, I was first made to aid in the defense of Snow Country given that it is always winter there. The weapon systems integrated into the armor were designed to help the nation's ninja better save and protect people from both enemies and the elements. The king of Snow Country brother was in charge of the project. Your parents were in charge of it. Tenten's eyes widened as she gasped. What they didn't realize was that the armor was actually going to be used to take over the country. Your parents took everything they had on the armor, including the prototype, and fled the country to Fire Country when they learned. Naruto remarked they almost got away, but they were apprehended by one of the king's brothers. Fortunately, my dad was nearby when your mom cried out for assistance, saving them, but some of their research was stolen. Snow armor, Tenten remarked. The king's brother was able to assassinate him and seize power thanks to the research that was done to create snow armor. Tenten remarked, my mother's diary described how snow armor was used to conquer that nation, but she never mentioned that she was one of the original creators, as Naruto gave her a startled look. Yes, based on my research about that country since I got Eva, the man who took over is evil and is killing what's left of the country. Naruto sighed. Eva will be used to save the nation, as your parents initially hoped. When I am strong enough to do so, if I can, I might be able to locate the missing princess who fled with Kakashi and bring her back to her throne state. Tenten asked, glancing at Naruto, but why? I'm a Jinchuriki Tenten, a human sacrifice, Naruto said with a sorrowful smile. My father decided to sacrifice me in order to save Konoha. I stand in for all the suffering and animosity that the people of Konoha have toward Kyuubi. I made the decision to give up my life in order to support Snow Country and your parents' aspirations to preserve what I value most. I am prepared to give my life. I am who I am because I choose to be, not because I must be. Tenten asked, so you're already giving up on everything to be a sacrifice for nothing? She looked up at Naruto, her eyes streaming with tears as she saw the smile on his face. No, Naruto said, I'm not going to give up. I'll figure out a way to complete the task at hand. My career as a ninja should have ended when I broke the bones in my arm. Fighting Gaara Tsunade was a broken woman who had given up on life after losing everyone close to her, and Ero Sanin and I tracked her down to become Hokage. Consider that she froze because of blood. Tenten, even though she was the best medic in the world, a minor cut that caused blood to flow made her icy. I had only a 20% chance of survival, so I tried to perform the surgery myself. You passed out from blood loss at 10%. Eva said you would have passed away in no more than an hour if I hadn't taken over the suit, brought you to Shizune, and persuaded her to operate on you. According to Naruto, but not only did I survive that, but also when Orochimaru and Kabuto blew up the motel room I was passed out in. Tenten's eyes widened and he exclaimed, what? The man wearing glasses during the examination was Kabuto. Indeed, he is a Chunin and a sound nin, Naruto stated. We believe that he is among Orochimaru's most devoted supporters. What was he doing in the exams then? Tenten asked with a frown. According to Naruto, he was a spy. In order for Orochimaru to give him a curse seal, he was supposed to get close to my team and learn more about Sasuke since I was eaten by a snake, blew it up with Kage Bunshin, and then battled Orochimaru himself while Sasuke was paralyzed with fear. I only truly know a little bit about it. So let me see if I got this straight. You met Orochimaru more than once and lived, a Jinchuriki, Kisame, and Uchiha Itachi, Tenten said, glancing at Naruto. Naruto stated, don't forget Zabuza, Haku, the Demon Brothers, Gato and his army of bandits, Kabuto, Neji, and picked a fight with Tsunade. Tenten snorts, collapses backwards, and says, you must have a death wish, Snowman. Blinking, Naruto said, Snowman, you called me that, but why? Tenten replied, well, you're wearing snow armor all the time, what else am I supposed to call you? Naruto replied, well, I only got the armor after the semifinals, and when I am showing the armor I'm sort of called Iron Man. Tenten said, are you kidding me? Tenten erupted into laughter as Naruto shook his head no. So do you have anything else you want to laugh at me about? Naruto asked with a sigh. Tenten repeatedly gasped for air before responding, nope, I'm fine, he said, grinning. You can't tell anyone about any of this, Tenten, Naruto said, shaking his head. I don't want you or your father to suffer because you helped me, but I doubt I'll be buying from you in the future. With a frown, Tenten questioned, and why the hell not? I don't want pity or charity, Tenten, Naruto declared. Don't you dare think that, Tenten said, giving him a slap. Even though I'm not an expert, my dad and I don't practice charity or sympathy. In addition to the fact that my family's store is the best damn weapon and supply store in the village. He gave you Eva and that armor for a reason. Nowhere in Konoha will you find better clothing or weapons, she said, grinning. Rubbing his cheek, Naruto uttered the words, you slap me. Tenten replied, yes, how about it? After giving her a quick glance, Naruto remarked, you actually slap me. Tenten said, looking uncertain, yeah, I did? Why the hell did you slap me? Asked Naruto. Bam and I were conversing directly across the face. Why in the world did you do that? You pissed me off, Tenten said after glancing at her. Naruto remarked, that's it, I irritate you, which is why you slapped me. Tenten scowled before responding, yeah. Tenten backed up a bit as Naruto got up and started to stalk her. Releasing a little key, Naruto continued to stalk her, asking, so if I felt like slapping you that would be alright, as he approached her. Tenten began to turn, not realizing how close she was to the wall, but she swallowed and said, I think I should go. Naruto said, I'm not done talking to you, as his fist struck the wall in front of her. Now respond to the query. Since you slapped me, is it okay if I slap you if I feel like it? Tenten swallowed, looked alarmed, and uttered the word, no, in a tremulous voice. It's not. Then why is it alright for you to slap me? Naruto whispered, leaning his head close to her ear. Sucking, Tenten said, I'm sorry, as he started to tickle the side of her ribs. Tenten began to laugh and yell. Stop, please, stop, stop, oh god, stop, I'm going to pee myself. Naruto grinned and said, then in that case let's see if you're ticklish. Tenten glared at Naruto as he jumped back and laughed, and he responded, I forgive you, but please don't slap me. All right, he said, grinning. Jokingly, Tenten said, I hate you. I know, Naruto said. Go get some rest, tomorrow is going to be a long day. Frowning, Tenten began to head for the door, but as she did, she paused and said, Naruto, thanks for saving me. After Naruto let out a sigh, Eva remarked, that was mean of you, Naruto. As he got into bed, Naruto said, perhaps, but at least she should be quiet now, let's get some rest. I hope you're all ready for this, Kankuro said as he started to walk out into the desert, and the others followed, as the group stood there the following morning as the sun started to rise over the desert. Everyone noticed that Naruto had his arms crossed as the group moved across the sand, demonstrating that he was actually using chakra to move across the top of the sand. Temari inquired, how do you know sand walking? After 2 hours or so. Sorry, what did you say? I wasn't paying attention, Naruto said, shaking his head. How do you know sand walking? It's a chunin level chakra control exercise in Suna, Temari snarled. Naruto replied, oh, the guys shadowing our group are using it, I just used their chakra pattern to figure out how they were doing it. As he and Jiraiya started to scan their surroundings, the Sandaime scowled and inquired, what guys shadowing us? Naruto replied, a mile south by southeast there's a squad of 4 Suna nins following us since we left the hotel. I thought since both you and Jiraiya had looked at them you knew they were following us, and they were like the Anbu patrol that followed us for the first 5 miles after we left Konoha. They turned back and started to head east about 10 minutes ago, so I thought they were just a border patrol. The Sandaime responded, I see, I want notified if anyone else is following us immediately. The answer was, yes, sir, Temari replied. That still doesn't explain how you're able to sandwalk. I mean, if they were that far away, how are you able to do it? Naruto stated, compared to the chakra exercises that I normally do, sand walking isn't that hard. You just form a small sheet of chakra on your feet a few inches wide, then your foot, so that way your chakra holds you up, keeping you out of the sand. Tenten said, now you tell me. Temari scowled. Naruto replied, I wouldn't try it, Tenten, we still have a long way to go since I can't pick up Suna yet, so save your energy. Tenten turned and began to walk again, scowling and saying, very well, let's go. When the group finally spotted the circle rocks of the secret village of sand after 7 hours in the desert, Temari grinned and exclaimed, there it is, Suna. It has been 3 years since I have seen it, let's get there so we can rest. The Sandaime nodded and carried on walking. 3 swirls of sand materialized as they approached the village within 100 yards, and Baki exclaimed, Hokage-sama, what are you doing here? The third individual stated, I am here to finalize the agreement between Suna and Konoha. Baki appeared perplexed and replied, but the agreement was settled yesterday by the representative that you sent. All we have to do to finalize the agreement is to marry the Suna representative and to the one from Konoha. The Sandaime looked at him and said, I assure you that whoever it was that is here was not sent by me or Tsunade. If you could take me to the council and bring this representative, then we can get this incident straightened out, unless this is a way for Suna to try and get out of the peace treaty that we are reforming, as he released a few key. Baki looked at him and replied, of course not, Hokage-sama, this whole incident was because of the deception of Orochimaru, doing not our own original planning. Please follow me and I will lead you to the council chambers myself. You escort the rest of the party here to their hotel and you get a team of Dune and have them bring that man and his party to the council chambers this way, Hokage-sama, as he identified the 2 individuals who arrived together. Jiraiya nods in the third shot and follows Naruto and Tenten to their hotel room. When Baki and the Sandaime entered the Suna council chamber a few minutes later, Baki frowned at the other person present and questioned, what are you doing here, Danzo? Danzo stated, a request from Suna to speed up the peace talks and return their genin to them reached the council of Konoha, and I was sent by them to finish the talks since you were busy with helping the village recover. If you would like, you can review the agreement that has already been agreed on and sent to the Fire Lord and Wind Lord. Pardon me, Hokage-sama, for sounding rude, but the representative that was sent here by your village has already forced us to agree to several heavy penalties for our part in the recent incident. We have already sent the agreement that was received to both the Fire Lord and Wind Lord for their approval. Changing the agreement is not only an insult to us but to the lords themselves. The Sandaime saw several Suna council members glare at Danzo, and they scowled when the head of the Suna council said, if you would like to review the agreement. The Sandaime replied, very well, but know that I am not happy with this. I sent a message to you after the attack on our village informing you that I would be the one who came to negotiate the new alliance. By you sending a letter to the council, you are undermining the authority of my office and could be considered another act of war. See to it that this never happens again, or the Godem Hokage may not be as forgiving as I am. Danzo. With the recent initiation of the Godem Hokage, your position on the council is no longer required and you will turn over all rights to that office when we return. When Asuna presented him with a scroll chunin. Following a review of the document, the Sandaime stated, I am forced to agree with everything on the document except for two. The first is there is a threat to not only Konoha but Suna that Jiraiya, who has accompanied me, will be informing you on, and that you must also inform us of any information you have on this threat. This is not negotiable and I will speak to the lords myself so they know of this danger and will accept the change. I also do not agree on the Konoha representative for the wedding to the Suna representative. Danzo responded, I am afraid you have little choice in that manner, as there is no one in Suna who is more qualified than the son of a council member in Suna at this time, and the wedding will be this afternoon since you have returned the late Kasuke's daughter. The third laughed at this and replied, Forgive my rudeness, Council of Suna, but which would you rather have as a joint member of your village and Konoha? The son of a soon-to-be former council member, or a chunin who is the son of the Yondaime Hokage of Konoha, who is also the hero of Wave Country, who was asked to take over as the feudal lord of Wave after the people of Wave ran their former member one out of the country, and also the only person to ever defeat Gaara in battle. He has also faced Itachi Uchiha once in battle, Orochimaru twice in battle, and recently faced Kisame Hoshigaki in battle for a second time, taking his arm in combat, causing several members of the council to gasp. Danzo replied, Forgive me, but since we are in Suna, Hokage-sama, I am afraid that when a situation like this happens, then the laws of Suna take precedent over a popularity contest. A member of the council stated, I am afraid he is right, Hokage-sama. The laws of Suna are very specific when it comes to disagreements over the hand of any woman in Suna. Due to the hard life we live in Suna, we cannot afford for a civil war or destruction of our village, so when two people have a disagreement, there is a public battle and the winner of the battle is the winner of the agreement. After noticing Danzo's grin, the Sandaime remarked, Very well, when will the battle be? Danzo replied, Since the wedding is set for this afternoon, Hokage-sama, then the battle has to be before then. I hope your representative is ready for it and not too tired from traveling here, Hokage-sama. Very well, 2 hours before sunset, is that agreeable to all of you? The Sandaime said. After a few council members swiftly concurred, Danzo turned to go, frowning and saying, Very well, I was hoping for sooner, but I can't have my way all the time. I will inform my son. The Hokage turned and walked away, saying, If that is all, I must inform my representative. Following his departure, the council's head remarked, That was interesting. As they all looked and saw Gaara standing there in the Kasuke robes, a voice that chilled every council member's body said, Pray that Uzumaki wins, because if anyone else marries my sister besides him, I will destroy Suna. Before they could say anything, Gaara continued, I have also decided that I will become the Godem Kasuke of Suna, and anyone who does not agree with me can learn that I do not need Shukaku driving me crazy to kill them. Thanks to Uzumaki, my seal has been fixed and I am now not only stronger than ever, but I am stable as anyone who will destroy you all if anything happens to my sister, as she released a few ki. In response to the sand crawling around their feet, the council members exchanged glances and gulped before uttering the words, We understand, Godem-sama. Gaara sat down in the Kasuke seat and said, Thank you for the nomination. Now tell me as to what has happened to our village, and also let me see this new treaty. The Sandaime was not in a good mood when he arrived at the hotel where Jiraiya, Tenten, and Naruto were. He glanced over as he shut the door, and Jiraiya and Naruto noticed the expression on his face and simultaneously asked, What's wrong, Sensei, Gigi? Danzo, said the Sandaime. Isn't he the guy you told me to avoid when you told me about Kyuubi? Said Naruto with a frown. The Sandaime replied, Yes, he is. While you and Jiraiya were away fetching Tsunade and our stop in Wave, Danzo came here to renegotiate the treaty, and for the most part he outplayed me and has already sent the agreement to the Wind Lord and Fire Lord for their approvals, and there is little I can do, but the problem is what else he got Suna to agree to. All of the Konoha ninjas were startled when Gaara, dressed in Kasuke robes, emerged. He turned to face Naruto and said, I have a request of you, Uzumaki. Naruto responded, What are you doing here, Gaara, and what is with the robes? Gaara stated, I am now the Godem Kasuke of Suna. The council has agreed to my nomination. That is not important. I need you to make sure that you win the battle this afternoon. I trust no one else with my sister. Naruto blinked, and Tenten glanced at everyone in the room before asking, What do you mean, what battle? What about Temari? The Sandaime exhaled and said, Danzo has forced my hand. He had Suna agree to marry Temari as part of the new peace treaty that was signed. He wanted her to marry his son. The problem is that if he got his hands on Tamari, then he would be able to use her to get to Gaara-san. With the new relationship the two have formed since Gaara-san defeat against Naruto and having his seal fixed, he would then try and use Suna to eliminate all who oppose him for his bid for the position of Hokage. He has already tried to kill me once to take the position of Hokage. The reason he lost one of his eyes and an arm is because of our battle. With a frown, Naruto questioned, then why is he still alive? The Sandaime murmured, the fight was sanctioned by the Fire Lord because Danzo had saved the life of the Fire Lord's son and used the favor he earned to try to take over. We were not allowed to kill each other, but I had to nearly kill him before the match was declared in my favor. Naruto looked at him and said, what does this have to do with me? I understand you not wanting him to get his hands on Tamari, but why do I have to fight this afternoon, and why me? The Sandaime replied, in order to save Tamari from his hands, I was forced to reveal certain information about you, namely your father. After scowling, Naruto remarked, so now I have to marry Tamari. Gaara replied, not yet, because of the laws of Suna you must fight Danzo's son for the right to my sister's hand. The only way for a winner to be declared is if one of you kill the other. One of you is to severely injured to continue to fight, or one of you surrender. I trust no one else to protect my sister, so you must win Uzumaki. If I win, can I not marry her? No offense, Gaara, but I am not good enough for your sister, Naruto said, scowling as he turned to face the Sandaime. Tenten looked at the Sandaime and replied, I am afraid not, Naruto. This is an all-or-nothing battle. If Danzo's son wins, then Tamari's life will become nothing but torture as Danzo uses her to gain what he wants. What do you want me to do, Gigi? Naruto asked with a sigh. The Sandaime replied, as much as it pains me to say this, I want you to kill Danzo's son. If not, then the mistake of letting him live will come back to haunt you as my mistake with his father has me. Any restrictions on how to do it? Inquired Naruto. The Sandaime responded, Naruto, I think you should know that the person you will be fighting is your age, but he is not to be treated lightly. I have no doubt in my mind the boy is most likely high chunin or low junin in skills. Danzo is forcing the fight to be today since you will most likely be tired from traveling here. He has stacked the deck against you. I did all I could do by making the fight this afternoon 2 hours before sunset. I am afraid that after the fight that you will be forced to marry her. With his eyes closed, Naruto uttered the words, I understand. Frowning, Tenten uttered, Gaara, I mean Kazekage-sama. Gazing at Tenten, Gaara remarked, Gaara is fine, Tenten-san. Tenten replied, Gaara, I was wondering what exactly does the law say about this? I mean, what is the actual wording? Perhaps there might be a loophole that we can use to end this mess. Gaara replied, I am not sure about the wording. Sandaime-san, do you know the wording? The Sandaime replied, unfortunately yes, the law says that in the event there is a disagreement between two parties over a piece of property, and in this case your sister is the property that is being fought over, that the two parties will fight in a public battle and the winner of the battle wins the property. Tenten scowled for a moment before grinning and stating, I think I thought of something. Hokage-sama, you just gave the answer to how to not only save Naruto from being forced to marry Tamari but also how to outplay this Danzo guy. As everyone in the room stared at her, Naruto questioned, what do you mean, Tenten? Tenten replied, you have to win Naruto for my idea to work. Can you do that? Tenten said, yeah, I can win. What is your idea? As Naruto noticed that he was observing him. Tenten looked at the Sandaime and remarked, after you win, that means that you are the legally then Tamari fiancé copyright right. According to the Sandaime, yes, until the wedding. Why? Tenten continued, then in that case what would happen if two people were to disagree over a piece of property? In this case Naruto, what if I challenge Tamari to a fight for the right to be Naruto fiancé copyright? Then all we have to do is have Tamari throw the fight and she would be free of having to marry Naruto, and after I won the right to marry Naruto we can just call it off and Naruto gets his freedom along with Tamari and Danzo winds up getting nothing out of this deal. Gaara remarked, that does seem like a good idea. Hokage-sama, what do you think? As the Sandaime bit his lip. The Sandaime responded, are you sure you wish to do this, Tenten? I mean, this has never been tried before, so there might be something in Suna laws that I am not aware of. Tenten replied, it's the only chance Naruto has. He should not be a sacrifice anymore with as much as he already sacrificed for others. Looking down at Naruto, the Sandaime said, it's your choice, Naruto. With a slight smile, Naruto said, thank you Tenten, I owe you. Tenten replied, no problem Naruto, you don't owe me since you saved my life already. As he shuffled away, Gaara remarked, very well, I will inform Tamari. Thank you both. A tiny black mouse fled the room through a tiny hole in the wall after Gaara left. The Sandaime and Jiraiya both glanced at Tenten to see her reaction after Gaara left, and she replied, he already told me about it. He said he got it from a debt to his dad. Naruto stood up, walked over to the window, and put his arm against the wall. He looked outside and thought, seal armor. With both men nodding, Naruto uttered, any chance I will get by without killing him, Gigi. The Sandame replied, no Naruto, from what I know of Danzo, failure is not an option. You fail, you die. After a few minutes of standing there with his eyes closed, Naruto said, if I am going to fight, then I need to get some rest. He then went over to the bed, laid down, and rested his arm over his head. Tenten turned to face him, and after exchanging glances with Sandame, Jiraiya said, Sensei, how about we go find something to eat for everyone? Looking at Naruto and Tenten, the Sandame remarked, that's a good idea, we all could use a meal. I trust you both will stay here. Yeah, Naruto snorted, I'm too tired to leave right now. Tenten declared, I'm going to take a shower. With a nod, the Sandame and Jiraiya departed. Tenten went to the restroom after they left, emerged a short while later, and said, you think you could help me? With a blink, Naruto lifted his arm away from his eyes and said, huh? Tenten puckered up and said, the showers have seals on them where it takes 2 people to get water out, so to save water I am not going the entire time we are here without a bath, so that leaves me with you. Or Tenten blinked and exclaimed, what the hell? As Naruto sighed and put his hands together while he was covered in smoke. Naruto stood up and replied, long story short, it's an actual shapeshift. Tsunade and Shizune both tested it and both think that I could get pregnant if, well, you know, I figure this was better than having to feel weird with me and you sharing. Tenten replied, you haven't been around my old team enough. Modesty is something you get rid of real quick with them. With Neji bloodline and Guy and Lee team bonding, I lost what little bit of modesty I had around them, so go ahead and change back. So you think their bloodline is used for peeping like I do? Naruto snorted as he reverted to his previous form. Tenten walked back into the bathroom and said, yeah, but I am not the one who openly declared it in front of the entire village, so come on, you wash my back, I wash yours. After all, we are both going to be engaged this afternoon. When Naruto entered, he undressed except for his boxers, and Tenten, who had left her underwear on, entered the shower. As soon as Naruto entered, the water turned on, and Tenten yelled, shit. As they searched for a water control knob, Naruto remarked, damn it, that's cold. Tenten grabbed the soap and rag and started washing herself off while Naruto kept his eyes closed. As soon as the water got warm, she exclaimed, that was so wrong. Tenten looked at him over her shoulder, blushed a little, but scowled when she saw the power core on his chest. She hurriedly washed her body and turned to face him, saying, you mind? She was carrying the soap and rag over her shoulder. Naruto opened his eyes, saw the soap and rag, and said, sure. He grabbed them and started washing her backside, saying, so Fuzzy Brows or Peeper ever do this for you? He also sent a small amount of chakra into his hands as he washed her lower back. Tenten bit her lip to contain a groan, arched her back, and whispered, no. Naruto laughed and replied, and here I thought you were going to say they did so you could keep me from knowing you lied about your modesty earlier. When Tenten saw that Naruto could look at her ass while he was on his knees and washed the back of her legs, she blushed in shame. Naruto said nothing, and she added, so you knew? Yeah, said Naruto in a deadpan tone. He held the rag over her shoulder after finishing her butt and said, here. Tenten asked, what was that you did a moment ago, while holding the rag? Naruto explained, something Shizune taught me when we were coming back to the village with Tsunade. Because of the surgery on my arm, the muscles were very tense, so she taught me to send my chakra into my hands and rub them across my arm. When water was on it, the water acts as a control agent to help release any tension you have in the area you're rubbing. Tenten held a towel in front of her as she stepped outside and said, stingy. The water stopped. Tenten's eyes widened as Naruto lifted his left leg and the armor materialized. He held the rag beneath the armor and water started to spill onto it. Naruto turned off the water and started washing himself off, saying, water is a control agent to help protect me in battle also. Tenten said, I see. She hurriedly dried off and changed into her clothes, while Naruto emerged a short while later, gathered his belongings, and changed into a shirt and shorts. Tenten sat on one of the beds after they had exited the restroom and said, so want to talk about it? During a brief period of silence, Naruto sat down and then lay back, staring at the ceiling, before stating, I've killed before. The first time was when I saved Tsunami when 2 mercs were sent to kidnap her and Inari for insurance so we would surrender to Zuna to Gato. I also killed when I went back to Wave and stopped the men who were running the slave ring. Both times I did it because I had to kill. It was to save Tsunami and Inari's lives, and then to save those girls' lives. But, said Tenten. Naruto looked up and said, but this time I am being ordered to kill a Konoha ninja that I feel like Konoha is turning into the hidden mist. The graduation exam. Tenten said. Naruto glanced at her and replied, Yazabuza told us all about it when he first attacked our team, telling us we didn't have it in us to be real ninja. I made a promise to myself that I wouldn't become a mindless tool and I would forge my own path. I just don't know if I have it in me to kill the guy the first I'm fighting or not. Tenten stood up, moved to lie next to him, rested her head on her arm, and questioned, "What does your heart tell you to do?" Tenten questioned, "What's with the smirk?" as Naruto smirked while closing his eyes. Naruto was saying, "Just listening to my heart, it's telling me two things." Tenten uttered, "Really, what's that?" Naruto was saying, "One is not to worry about the battle later and killing the guy the first have to face. Do what I think is best at the time." Tenten replied, "Sounds like good advice. What's the other thing it's telling you to do?" "I'm not sure if I should tell you. You might not understand what I am trying to say," Naruto said, sitting up on one of his arms. Tenten replied, "Hey, are you saying I am not smart enough to understand you?" Naruto replied, "No, that's not it at all. I'm just not sure the words I could say would be able to explain it best. It might be better if I showed you." Tenten blinked and questioned, "Wah?" But Naruto silenced her and opened her eyes as he gave her a quick kiss on the forehead. He then leaned back and said, "Thanks," before lowering his head and closing his eyes. Tenten looked at Naruto, blushing, and stammered, "What was that for?" Naruto exclaimed, "For accepting me and for trying to make me feel better even after you know all my secrets. Nobody else knows everything I've told you about myself. I feel I can trust you, so I wanted to say thank you in a special way," as he gazed at her eyes. Tenten paused for a moment and said, "You know, I want to say I'm sorry. I was wrong about you back when we first met in front of room 201. I thought you were a loudmouth idiot who wouldn't even make it past the first exams. You then blew everyone away by standing up to Ibiki. You must have been very confident in your answers." When Naruto snickered, Tenten questioned, "What?" Grinning broadly, Naruto said, "I passed with a blank piece of paper. I didn't even write my name on the test." Tenten blinked repeatedly before uttering the words, "You kidding, right?" As Naruto put it, "Nope, I've never been good with paper test." "Oh man, I can't believe it. You stood up to the head of torture and interrogation with a blank test. You must have balls of steel," Tenten said, blinking and laughing. With a shrug, Naruto leaned back and said, "Maybe," Tenten said, "I'm tired from walking across the desert and want to sleep a little bit, and I don't want to lay beside the pervert or the sandame. Both are perverts," as she lay on his shoulder next to him. "This is what Naruto said, and you think I'm not?" Tenten replied, "You tried to be a gentleman. Everyone's at least a little perverted. That's how we get children." "True, let's get some rest," Naruto said. Tenten merely nods her head, and in a matter of seconds, they're both asleep. Jiraiya scribbled on his notebook with a perverted giggle when he and the sandame returned, and Tenten stirred when Naruto said, "Writing about your teacher-student dreams with Gigi Ero Sanin." He did not open his eyes. Jiraiya looked at him and replied, "No Gaki, writing about you in the future, Mrs. Uzumaki. It might be as good as the time I wrote about your mom and dad's honeymoon." Naruto growled and replied, "Nothing happened, pervert Tenten, and I don't trust a pervert, so we decided you could sleep with Gigi. Neither of us are perverts, so you better not ruin Tenten's reputation by placing her in any of your books. As for my parents, I will let Tsunade know what you're writing about me and Tenten." As amusing as this is, I guess it couldn't be helped. For now I assume you and Tenten must have shared the shower, all of us, but Tenten could have gotten by the shower sensor since we all know a physical bunshin technique, the sandame said as Jiraiya went pale and put his notebook away. Tenten became a little flushed and said, "Wait, you mean a physical bunshin would trick the seal in the shower?" The sandame replied, "Yes, it's made where civilians won't waste water in the motels, but since ninja are important for the survival of this village, they made it where ninja can bypass the seal with any bunshin jutsu other than the regular bunshin." When Naruto noticed multiple takeout bags on the table, he approached them, took a look, and declared, "No ramen." Jiraiya stated, "Water is too important here to use it to steam noodles for ramen." After giving a nod, Naruto grabbed a plate, opened it, and exclaimed, "What is this? I've never seen it before."
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.